Alright, a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, once again from the flight deck. It's Captain Abs here with you once again for another stream in my series of A Pilot's Life here on Twitch. Thank you guys so much for joining me again for the season premiere of Season 3. We did make a previous attempt to actually do it today and crash the sim about an hour into the flight, so here we are trying it a second time. Irregardless, we're going to continue carrying on here with the third season of A Pilot's Life. As you can see here, working for a new airline this time. For those of you that do not recognize that logo, this logo belongs to Air Transat. So this is a Canadian vacation carrier. They serve mainly from Canada. They serve mainly tropical destinations and European destinations with a little bit of intra-Canada service as well. So I'm pretty excited to bring you this next iteration of A Pilot's Life. I did enjoy the Dash, flying it for a long time, but I am ready to move on from it to something else new. I think the Dash was starting to get a little bit repetitive, and I think the schedule especially would have gotten quite repetitive in the next month. We're starting to revisit a lot of the same airports over and over and over again. So decided to do something very different, so that's what we've done here. We've started to fly for Air Transat. We accepted a new job in my pilot's life career here at Air Transat. So speaking of A Pilot's Life, here you go. Here's the dashboard. As you can see, I'm now a first officer employed by Air Transat, and I now have a slightly higher salary than I had before. One thing now, unfortunately, I seem to have been locked into a low salary because I took this job, which was offered to me before I'd got my promotion to first officer when I was a junior first officer, so it locked in this lower salary that it offered me at before. And I have a feeling it's going to stay locked in there until I reach all the way to the senior first officer rank, where I'll get a wage that's appropriate for that. So I think, unfortunately, I'm locked in here for another 150 experience points until I get to here. Speaking of experience points, therefore, I did something during my last stream, which was I decided to finally spend some of my hard-earned money and buy myself some experience points bonuses. So I bought myself a flight bag. This gives me a 5% experience bonus on every flight, so that'll help me accumulate those experience points just a little bit faster, which should get me a pay raise that much sooner. As you can see now in my inventory here, I've got two things. I've got my flight bag that I just got, and I also had an award that I got for being part of the first 50,000 flights in SimBit World's A Pilot Life, both of which give me a 5% experience point bonus for a total of 10%, which is not bad. It's definitely going to help slowly pick up the pace at which we get to accumulate these experience points and move on in our career. Speaking of moving on in our career, let's have a quick look at the schedule page and see what we're up against. So I spent quite a bit of time trying to generate various schedules because Transat's got an interesting route network and every schedule was very different. I tried to pick one that had mostly airports that I already have in my library, so I don't have to expand my library too much. So I ended up with this schedule, which is what we're going to be working through over the next several weeks as we continue to move through this career. So our first leg for today, as you can see, is a Toronto to Vancouver. From there, we're going to go do a turn over to Puerto Vallarta and back to Toronto. We're going to have a Schiphol turn, a Punta Cana turn, and an Orlando turn. So an interesting variety of aircraft in this, or an interesting variety of airports, and Transat does have an interesting variety of aircrafts as well. They have a fleet that's primarily Airbus composed, 321s, 320s. However, they also do feature some 737s. I believe the 737s are older aircraft that are being phased out, but there were still some listed in the fleet, so this is going to give me a great opportunity to try several different types of airplanes. So as well as the A321 here, which you can see here in the lovely Air Transat colors, we're also going to be operating at obviously a 330 to get to Schiphol. I don't think the 321 is going to quite make it overseas. Even Vancouver's a little bit of a strain for this plane. It'll make it, but not a whole lot of extra fuel left at the end of the day by the time we get to Vancouver. And we will also use the 737 a little bit as well. So I am looking forward to that. So as I said, today's flight that we're going to be doing here is Toronto, all the way to Vancouver. We're going to try and get this done in one swoop here. I tried to do it earlier today, and as I said, I unfortunately had a little problem while I was trying to demonstrate the EFB, and I crashed my sim, which was a little frustrating at the time. I'm a little bit over it now, and I'm ready to try this again. Stuff goes wrong in aviation, things break, and sometimes you end up leaving later than expected, but we're still going to try and get this flight done today. Now this is the Aerosoft Airbus Pro package, the A321 specifically. And we're also going to be featuring, as I have in the past, a little FS2 crew as well. I really like FS2 crew. I think it's a really useful tool to help with me with learning this airplane, first of all, because let me first of all start off by saying I do not know this airplane well. I knew the dash extremely well, flew it for 5 years, knew it very well. I have never flown an Airbus in reality. So everything I know I've learned through the sim world. I've tried to learn it as best I can, but I don't guarantee that my knowledge is perfect. So if I'm doing something wrong, please let me know in a constructive manner. Like I said, I am not at all familiar with the Airbus like I am with the dash. So this is going to be kind of new territory for me. So please bear with me if I do something wrong. I'd be happy to try and fix it for the future. Just let me know in a constructive way. Alright, so we're going to hop in the flight deck and we're going to get ready to get started here because I'd really like to get this flight underway before it gets too long. And the first thing we've got to do is get my first officer started. So we just go to our config screen, make sure that everything is set up the way we want. Doors, so FS2 crew will operate the doors, the gates for departure and arrival. There will be ASDX, there's not going to be any pushback, and we're going to use external power. And we're also going to have a 30-minute countdown for this start. I don't think we're going to need 30 minutes though. And once we're happy with all these settings, we can hit run.
Hi there, Captain. How are you today?
I am good. And now he's gonna do everything that I need to do for the initial setup here. He's gonna power on the airplane. I was powering on the airplane before, and then he kept on undoing everything I was doing because he doesn't even look at to see if the switches are already on. He just pushes them. So I'm gonna let him power the airplane on. So as you have a quick look over here, you can see external power is available. In a second, he's going to push that power, so we turn on the batteries. And now he's got external power on. He's turned on all the screens for us as well. So he's got everything, he's working everything out for our flight here. So he's configuring the airplane initially here. One thing I found he didn't do was he didn't put on the nav lights last time. So as I said, I'm new to the Airbus. I'm fairly new to the Airbus, fairly new to operating FS2 crew in the Airbus, so I'm doing my best. I gotta mute this before it listens to everything I say. I'm doing my best to, make it through this as following proper procedures as much as possible, but I won't claim to be perfect, so I may, screw some things up from time to time. So, again, helpful, constructive criticism is welcome. Please don't think I'm an expert at this point. I'm not claiming to be. However, hopefully by the time I finish a few legs in this thing, I'll be even better at it than I am right now. So now that the FO's got the airplane powered up, we do have the bridge on. The one thing we want to do, first of all, is configure our load for today. So first of all, fuel-wise, we want full tanks. So I'm going to put the full 19.15 liters there, or kilos there. 19.15 tons, I guess, really is what I should say. And then the other thing I'm going to do here is something that's really neat in this is my flight plan should be right here. There it is. So I can also see my load in here. This is my SimBrief flight plan, extracted directly from SimBrief, downloaded onto my computer, and then can be displayed in my EFB here on the flight deck, which is great. Saves me from having to switch screens and bring up browsers from other windows as a streamer. This is great. This is gold right here. All right, so we are looking at, let's see here, 216 passengers and cargo. It looks like we're about 2,000 kilos under the max. So let's see here. So let's do 0.1 cargo is not really very realistic because you got to also allow for some people bring bags. So you should probably bring on average about 10 kilos per person. So that should probably work out to about 2 tons. I might do a little bit less than 2 tons just to make sure we don't go overweight. I might do about 1.5 tons in the cargo holds. And there we go. So we've got all this set up. The reason why we set this up is that when we call now for GSX, when the fuel truck arrives and plugs in, he will automatically start fueling to the specified load fuel here. So he'll pull up. I won't even have to tell him anything. There's 2,400 tons in the tank right now, or 2.4 tons in the tank right now. He will load it right to what I've specified here, the 19.15, as soon as he gets here without me having to do anything else, which is really kind of nice. I've got to say that the integration between GSX and the Aerosoft Airbus is pretty tight, and I like it. Makes life quite a bit easier. Then you can focus on the important things in life. Alright, so we'll kill this screen for now while we wait for the fuel truck to show up. We'll check it again once he does show up. And we're going to go through the flight deck. There's a few things we need to check on to make sure that we've got set up correctly. So first thing we got to do is make sure that our adders, our air data and inertial reference systems are all on and in nav mode so they can navigate for us. And basically then we have to go through the flight deck. Any white switches, anything that's white should be turned off, or should be turned on, I should say. The white lights should be extinguished. How about that? So these are all the fuel pumps. They should all be on now at this point when we're getting ready for flight. Crew oxygen should be on before we go flying. We've got a few lights on here. You can see generators are faulty because obviously the engines are not running. Same with the packs. The packs are not getting any air, so hence they're reporting as faults. But once we do get some air running in through those, they will go back to normal. Arm our emergency lights. We'll put on our no portable electric devices sign, but we will have to leave our seatbelts off because we haven't been fueled yet. The nav lights are on. None of the rest of the external lights are needed at this time. And we don't need anything from the flight controls, cargo panels, everything is, all the switches are turned on. So this is what you call a black flight deck. Everything in this flight deck, basically, if it's in the appropriate position, should basically be dark. There are a few things that are listing faults right now just because the airplane's not running. As soon as we do fire up the engines and everything is running, there will be nothing turned on here. Everything will be black. Because generally in this kind of, the philosophy is that if everything's black and nothing is grabbing your attention with a bright, pretty colored light, then everything's working properly. If anything fails or is going wrong or you've turned something off, that's when it's going to display a light. Alright, so we've got that all set up. The FO is going to go out and do the walk around in a minute, and in the meantime we are going to get ready to set up our FMS here. And let's see, we can pull it up with, oh no, not that one, this one. One side, this side turns on the keyboard. Keyboard off, and the other side brings it up onto the screen here. As with our Dash 8, however, we're going to try to keep things easy here, and we're going to use our AviaWorks FMS as we did before. So let me just bring that up. And it's not, it is working, okay, good. So there it is. So again, here is my AviaWorks on my tablet on my desk, which makes inputting data into the FMS much easier. So we go into the FMS system, Flight Management Guidance System, and the first thing we have to do is init our flight. So today's flight is Toronto to Vancouver. And if you look here on this page, we already have a flight plan. So I downloaded the flight plan. I'm not going to load it. I'm going to program it manually just to show you how this works. So we're going to hit return. We're not going to insert what's programmed in there, and we're going to pick that later. I believe our alternate for today is Comox. Let me just zoom back over to my FMS, and that will tell me, if I scroll right up to page 1 here, our alternate is CYQQ.
Okay, I'm out for the walk around.
Comox. Okay, thank you. Also on this page, at the top right corner, you can see our cost index for today is 15. And I put that in the wrong field, didn't I? Funny. Comox is our alternate. It's not our flight number. Our flight number today is Transat 953. Okay. And then we can also initialize our IRS since it was powered on. And we can just simply hit align on ref. Our reference is the Toronto airport where we are right now. So we're just going to hit align on ref, and it's going to go ahead and align the IRS based on us being at the Toronto airport. Should be more than accurate enough for the alignment process. Our initial flight altitude today is flight level 300. And that's it for the initialization page. Then we can go and do our flight plan. On the flight plan page, we have Toronto and Vancouver already filled in because that's what we defined as our route. So we start off in Toronto and we do our departure. Today's departure, I don't believe we got any VATSIM ATC online yet. Oh, we do actually. We didn't, and now we do. Fantastic. I knew this was a good time of night to come here and do this. Looks like our departures are going to be probably runway 23 today. So let's go ahead and pick that for departure. Did I just pick 15, right? Jeez. Okay, erase that and start again. Departure from Toronto. Fat fingers here sometimes. 23, there it is. We're going to be doing the Ursel departure. There it is, Ursel 3. Ursula 3, and I believe we're doing, what is it, I don't have it up here anymore, so let's just scroll down here, go to the second page. There it is, case to transition. It is the case to transition. So we've got 2-3 Ursula 3 case transition. We can insert that, and there we go. Now we've got some legs forming here. Flight plan Tillum, Ursula cased. Then after cased, where are we going to go? We're going to go direct to Duluth. And then MOT, I am not familiar with. And then Bevel. And then we have to go to a lat long, which I figured out how to do because I started to do this in the previous episode, and then I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. But I figured it out now. 49. Oh, shoot. Is it like this? Or was the N first? We're going to try this. If it gives me an error, we're going to try it the other way. So 120 and 0 minutes, 0.0 west. And there it worked. Okay, so it is, so now it's defined its own lat long point in there, and it's just showing it as LL01 in my flight plan. If you did multiple ones, obviously it would just count upwards. And booth, and then direct. Again, there's no flight, there's no arrival file on this, and I didn't notice that when I was filing it on SimBrief here, so I'm a little bit disappointed, but that's okay. We can make this work. Booth, 50 north, 122 west, that sounds right, not 141 east. And then from there, direct to Vancouver. So what we can do is we can just take this. Oh, no, actually we can't do that. What we can do is we can clear out the discontinuity, and it's going to go straight from Booth to Vancouver. We say insert, and the temporary is taken away, and this is now our active flight plan. Okay, so we've got a flight plan programmed in now. Next step. If we need any radio aids, we could put them in if we needed them for the departure procedure, but we really don't need them in Toronto, so we go back to the initialization page and go to page 2. Click right to go to page 2. And now we can check on our load again here. Okay, so now we've got, so notice here now how the fuel light turned from orange to flashing green. Flashing green means that something's happening, and if you look carefully at the number here in the corner, you'll see it's slowly loading fuel. So the fuel truck arrived while we weren't looking. There he is, hooked up, and because he had the fuel order already programmed in, he just started loading that fuel without any more interaction from us, which is great when it works. Doesn't always work perfectly, but it has generally been fairly reliable on this. Nope. Yes, so that's what we're trying to do here. So the other thing that we get from this page, besides actually loading all the stuff, is then we get the final load and balance here. So our ZFW today is going to be 66.5, and our takeoff CFG is predicted at 66. So we can put this down here in the corner onto our other FMS down here in the corner. So 66.5 and 26 C of G for our ZFW and 0 fuel weight center of gravity. And then it can do some performance calculations for us. And last but not least, our block fuel. Since we're not done fueling yet, we can program in our planned block fuel of 19.1 to the nearest decimal 1. And now it's going to be able to do performance calculations. We could also manually put in fuel calculations for all these different legs if we wanted to. We've got a whole bunch of stuff here. We can put in our final reserve, our alternate fuel, all that stuff. If we wanted to, we could take it from the flight plan, or we can leave the FMS to auto-calculate it. Tonight, I'm going to leave the FMS to auto-calculate it. We've got the second init page done. The last thing to do before we take off is our performance. At the minimum, what you need to specify for this is the flap configuration you want to use.
From the walk-around, everything looks good.
Thank you. So we could use flap 1 or flap 2. I'm going to go with flap 1. It's a pretty long runway if we depart off 2-3. I am going to shift the takeoff by 500 feet. And basically what that means is that we're going to start from 500 feet down the runway, which is what you normally do on runway 23 in Toronto, because normally you do it from hotel. And that will automatically calculate your V1, VR, and V2 right there on the left side of the performance page. And voila, we're done with the FMS. Just like that. Maybe it's me, but it seems almost easier. Maybe I'm just used to the flow of a jet FMS, but it seems a little bit easier and quicker than the dash. One thing I have noticed about using this, about operating this airplane, is things do seem to go faster in the pre-flight phase. There seem to be less steps, certainly, than in flying the dash. All right. So we're going to just take away these two while they're just, so they don't distract us right now while we're doing what we're doing here. And
Hey, Captain. The agents want to start sending people out. Can we start boarding?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Okay, so to coincide with that, GSX has now been requested to board the airplane. And if I bring up this one again here, you'll see boarding and cargo now flashing green as well on this third MCDU, which means that they are also being boarded. You won't actually see it yet, but GSX will let the airplane know as it's boarding, which is great. Like I said, the integration is pretty tight between the Aerosoft Airbus and GSX, and when it works, it's a beautiful thing. Sometimes it hangs up and doesn't want to work. They're both very complex programs in their own right, so expecting them to cooperate all the time is probably a bit much. I'm just going to turn up the brightness on these here, so that's a little bit easier to see. North America, we need inches, and let me just check the ATIS here in Toronto. Charlie, 2997. And 2997. There we go. Alright, so we got those set. We've got constraints as our active. We don't need the localizer, but we do have our flight director up. We need to arm our auto throttle system. We need to set our top altitude for our SID. 5,000, push the knob in, and that will have it depart in VNAV mode. So we've got dot 5,000 and dot set. Okay, I just noticed my thrust levers are still stuck halfway up, so I just brought them back to idle.
I'm doing good.
Alright, everything is looking good on here. No flags are showing up anywhere. Now, I'm not 100% sure that our FO will set our auto brake for us, so I'm going to turn it to max right now as I just go flow through everything and make sure everything is set up. Our brake pressure is good. Let's see here. The gear lever's obviously down. We can go through the ECAM pages if we want to check out anything. Right now, everything looks to be good. We've got some of the doors still open. Everything's being boarded still. While we're here as well, we need to do... We need to set up our frequencies. And that should give us Toronto arrival. And let's see here. So the thrust levers are at idle. The engines are off. The start switch is just normal position. Zero flap.
We're ready for taxi, runway 24 right.
And hopefully that's not too loud for you guys.
24 right, ATIS alpha altimeter 2997.
The spoilers are also retracted. There's no rudder trim inputted. The parking brake is on, and that's basically it for the flow.
Runway 24 right.
So we've gone through the flight deck, we've done the whole flow, everything appears to be going well, so let's go ahead and get a clearance for Vancouver. Let me just get my paper, and actually what I can do, let me see if I can do this here. Actually, I don't know if it'll work or not. I thought there was a scratch pad in here. You know what? I'm not going to mess with it. No, you know what? I'm thinking of something else. Disregard. Okay, so let me call for a clearance here. Ground arrival, very good evening. Transat 953 on the ground Toronto, looking for IFR to Vancouver.
Transat 953 clear to Vancouver, Ursula 3 departure, case of transition, flight plan route. Depart runway 23, squawk 2217.
Okay, Transat 953 is cleared to Vancouver via the Ursula 3 departure, case transition, and the flight plan route departure off runway 23, squawk 2217.
Transat 953, read back correct, push and start at your discretion. You can call me back ready for taxi.
Push and start at discretion, call you for taxi, Transat 953. First thing you do when you get the clearance, put the transponder code in. That's the best thing to do right away. Otherwise, it's as expected. Ursula 3 case transition off runway 23. Now, one thing that's great about this EFB when you can get it to work is we do have charts on here, and I can even just do this and hit up my favorite charts here in Toronto. And I can even, should be able to, if I can get the keyboard to work, and sometimes I can get it to work and sometimes I cannot. It annoys me when I cannot, but I cannot. There should be a keyboard, there it is. And even if I just enter a few digits, there we go, Ursula 3. Now I have the correct departure, and then this icon right here is key. It's the clipboard icon. So when you click on that, that adds this chart to the clipboard, the little virtual clipboard, which just has just what you need. So I have these from my previous flight. All I need is the Ursel 3 departure, and I've also got the airport diagram and everything already ready to go. So now we can do a takeoff briefing because we have our clearance. I'm just going to pull up the FMS in the bottom corner here. Are you ready for the departure briefing? Are you ready for the takeoff briefing?
Ready?
I can never remember which word he likes. Okay, so now we're ready to do the takeoff briefing. So today we're going to be departing runway 23 in the event of any abnormality of the problem. Prior to V1, we'll stop the aircraft on the runway. Abnormality after V1 will be considered in flight emergency. No immediate actions prior to retracting flaps. If there's an engine failure or other issue after V1, we'll climb at V2 to 1,600 feet before proceeding on course. And once the flaps are retracted, we will action the emergency. Departure today, we're at gate Charlie 26, and I can zoom right in here with the scroll wheel, which is great. You've also got buttons here, but frankly the scroll wheel is just easier. Your hand's already on the mouse. Charlie 26 is right here, so I'm expecting a quick taxi out Alpha Juliet, up Alpha, over to hotel for runway 23. The only hotspot number 3 here I'm familiar with is just not to taxi onto Quebec without clearance from ATC, which we're planning the departure from a hotel anyways. That's it for our taxi out. Our SID today is the Ursel 3 departure. I'm going to just click on flight plan right here. So the Ursel 3 departure, zoom in a little bit so you can read it a little better. It's on 10-3 Quebec 3, 30th January 2020. Radar is required. Runway is 56 right, 234 right. That's all. Simultaneous parallel departures, safe altitude 100 mile 49, jets only. Yeah, that's all basically as expected. Pretty standard for anyone who's very familiar with Toronto, unless of this I'm ATC. Climb heading 237 to 1100 feet, then a climbing right turn heading 245. So 237 and then 1100 feet we go to 245. And it's a manual leg, we'll not go any further till advised. Expect radar vectors to Tillum or as a sign and proceed via the depicted route, the top altitude 5,000. So we've got 5,000 feet set in there, and because it's all programmed in here correctly and the discontinuity has not been deleted, we can fly this in LNAV mode. If you delete this discontinuity, people, you cannot fly this in LNAV mode. You must fly it in heading mode, manual heading mode. So keep that in mind. Do not delete this discontinuity. Fly this in manual mode, and when you get the first vector to your on course, then you can just direct it to those points. But do not delete this discontinuity. I see so many people do it, and it's a big mistake, and then they turn immediately after departure because that's what they programmed the airplane to do, which is not correct. The airplane, the SID says, fly runway heading 237, 1100 feet, heading 245, and expect vectors to Tillum. ATC will give you the vectors. The routing is after Tillum, we go to Ursel and Cased, and that's it. That's the end of the departure. Terrain, the highest altitude around the field is 3,100 feet. Weather is VFR here. It's a little bit of rainy and showery in the west coast, but we should be okay. And operational, no MELs in this aircraft. Everything works. No NOTAMs that I saw affecting the departure, and I can check again because I have my NOTAMs right here in my flight plan. Boom. Departure airport NOTAMs. Anything of interest for 2-3? I don't see anything new. I was there the other day, and so I know what's going on. Runway 23, the display threshold we're all aware of. It's been there for years. ILS 23, nothing that affects us. So there we go. So no NOTAMs, and that's it. Do you have any questions? Any questions?
Okay, that's checked, and no questions.
All right, you got it. All right. And we're doing pretty good. We got 11 minutes still to go. It sounds like they're just about done boarding. Let's check fuel. Fuel's still going. We're at 16 tons now. We need about 3 more tons. And then we can go ahead and fire up the APU and get ready to go.
Climbing to 15,000, route 1674 RB.
Unfortunately, the one problem with doing everything, fueling and loading baggage at the same time, is the baggage passes right through the fuel truck. Yeah. You know, for the miracle technology, I try not to be too critical of GSX when things clipping like this happen between objects, because frankly, the way the coordination looks and the animation individually of the way the containers come off the baggage carts, go onto the lift truck and get slid into the belly of the airplane, it looks really good. I'm not going to quibble on some clipping because multiple vehicles are attached to the airplane at the same time. Container really just barely fits through that door, doesn't it? Alright, but we're ready to go before the airplane even is, and that's good. She is a pretty nice model, though, I've got to say. The external model here, she looks pretty good. It's not the most high detail, but overall it is very nicely done. The PBR looks really good. The materials look really good. The lighting all looks really good on this airplane. It overall looks really nice. So I'm not going to complain about little details. Overall, it does the job quite well.
Turn left direct Oak the long course.
Makes for a very realistic look anyways.
Left direct
Any
Oak,
second now,
long
this
course,
guy's going to be done.
1674 heavy.
Let's see here. He's at 17. He's got about 2 more to go. 1.5 to go.
Good afternoon.
And then you'll be able to even see him disconnect.
And WestJet 525.
Sounds like a busy evening in Toronto right now. That's for sure.
And good afternoon to you.
Alright, I'm just going to double check right now that, yes, I'm on the current flight page. One thing I do need to do actually is select this aircraft. I had shut all this down after my previous flight got rejected, so there we are. The aircraft, so it should automatically start this flight as soon as we start engines.
You don't have an RNAV SID filed out of Toronto. Are you able to fly an RNAV SID? Do you have the charts on board for a SID, or do you require runway heading?
He's got less than a ton to go. I just want to see this view because you'll see him disconnect, and that's kind of fun too. It really is. The animation for GSX is very well done these days. I'm very impressed with it. Not that I think they care, but but nevertheless, I think you know what I'm trying to say. Like, the way it all comes together is very smooth. It's very nice to watch just because it comes together so nicely and
Hi,
smoothly now.
Captain. The passenger boarding is complete, and I've got the load sheet here for you when you're ready.
Thank you.
Have a safe flight.
Thanks, you too. Alright, lights are already starting to come on here. It's going to cut my frame rate down in Toronto a little bit, but that's okay. We can deal with this. Alright, but we're getting there. Basically, we're waiting for the fuel and the boarding to finish. We got 8 minutes till our scheduled departure time, which is fine. And it looks like the fuel is done. He's just reached 19.15. So give him a second, and the fuel truck's going to disconnect. You just watch here. He walks over, reaches up, pulls the hoses down, lowers his little lift platform, and then he's going to drive away. And away he goes. Which is pretty impressive when you just kind of look at how that technology works. Okay, good. So he's done. Refueling is completed. So we can now go ahead and start the APU. Generally, you want to do this about 10 minutes before departure. Much more than that, you're wasting gas. And you can do it anyways when they are fueling. Speaking of fueling being complete, we can also turn on the fasten seatbelt sign at this point then. Alright, so once we turn on the APU, it automatically brings up the APU screen and you can watch the start process. The air intake flap opens, and then it starts rotating. Fuel's already been added because you can see the EGT there is rising quickly, which is pretty typical for this, and then it starts to accelerate. The end speed starts to accelerate pretty quickly at that point, and the EGT will start falling again.
Over to Unicom,
There it is,
thanks for the
50%.
help, have a good night. We're 1674 heavy.
Certainly there's a lot less interaction as well with the FO in this FS2 crew.
WestJet 525.
The airplane is easier to operate. There it is. So APU gen is now online, and APU bleed is now open. So we can go ahead and turn on the APU bleed so we can start the engines and get the packs going. You should see both packs come on there. And we can also disconnect external power.
525, yep, I'm just going to update your tag here. I'll call you back with your clearance.
Cockpit to ground. Please disconnect external power.
Roger, disconnecting the GPU.
So now he's going to disconnect the GPU for us, and we're pretty much ready to go, I think, here.
And WestJet,
did we finish boarding? I think we finished boarding.
Copy.
Let's just check.
Yeah,
boarding completed. Yep. We are all done, guys. We are ready to go. So what we'll do is we'll get GSX ready to go here. And let's do it. Before start, checklist to the line.
Before start checklist, down to the line. Cockpit prep.
Completed.
Completed. Gears, pins, and covers.
Removed.
Signs.
On.
ADIRS.
Read back correct. Push and start at your discretion. Call me back.
Nav.
For taxi.
Fuel quantity.
19 tons.
Takeoff data.
Toronto approach, Flight 469,
Confirmed.
ready to copy IFR clearance to Orlando.
Set.
Barrow ref.
2997 set.
And call sign was Solaris.
2997. Cross-checked. Set. Okay,
Solaris
before start
469
checklist
clear to
completed to the
Orlando by the
line.
Mets 2 departure Foxy transition flight plan route. Depart 24 right, squawk 2201.
We're going to do tail left.
Cleared to Orlando on the Mets 2 departure, Foxy transition, squawk 2201.
Before start procedures.
The current altimeter,
Okay.
the ATIS wasn't working. Solaris 469.
And Solaris 469,
Turn on
altimeter
beacon
2997. Push and start at your discretion, call me back ready for taxi.
What runway?
24 right.
Alright, thank you.
Before start checklist, below the line.
Before start checklist
On arrival,
below
good day.
the
It's Air
line.
Canada
Windows and
464,
doors.
IFR to Ottawa.
One thing I'm going to have to do is just...
Air Canada 464 cleared to Ottawa via the Verdo 6 departure L sub transition flight plan route. Depart 24 right, squawk 2206.
Well, it doesn't seem to want to retract, but we'll say it retracted.
I just cleared Ottawa Verdo 6
Repeat
L sub
last.
transition off of 24 right,
Before start
2206.
checklist
Squawk
below
Air
the
Canada
line.
464.
Windows and doors.
Canada 464, read back correct, push and start at
Closed.
your discretion, call me back ready for taxi. Call taxi, Air Canada
Closed.
464.
Beacon.
On.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Parking brake.
Released.
Before start checklist complete.
Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead.
We are ready to start engines.
Okay, all the doors and hatches are closed. The beacon is rotating. Engine intakes are clear and the chocks have been removed. You're clear to start all engines.
Starting engine 2. Have to turn that to start.
Checked.
I did that backwards. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm still not an expert on this aircraft. I'm getting there. But I'm not an expert yet. There we go. Alright, looks like a good start on engine 1. Starting engine 2.
Set parking brakes.
Waiting your confirmation for good engine start.
Alright, fuel is flowing, EGT is rising. N1 and N2 are both increasing, oil pressure's up. Everybody feels pretty happy and we left a couple minutes early.
Air Canada 464 is short of altitude.
You are cleared to disconnect and go to hand signals.
All right, you'll have a safe flight. Ground to cockpit.
Go ahead.
All right, Captain, we're removing the jetway now.
And Air Canada 6,
That's what I did wrong.
464, standby 1.
Still learning this, because I still had 2 minutes left. They hadn't removed the jetway, that's why. Yeah, that's funny. Let's see here. Unlocking the gear.
Air Canada 464, runway 24 right, ATIS is Charlie, altimeter 2997, exit Alpha Kilo. Left on Bravo, left on Charlie, hold short 24 right. Alpha Kilo Bravo Charlie, short 24 right, Air Canada 464.
Alright, before we get going here, one quick check here. This now is an active flight because the button only says N flight, so we are successfully recording this, which is great, so we can hopefully succeed this time, unlike my previous attempt. That can't be perfect every time.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
All right, guys. Everyone's seated. We're all buttoned up and ready to go in the back.
Thank you.
If you need anything, just let me know.
After start procedures.
Check.
Ignition's back to normal.
Flaps 1 plus F.
If you bleed off, no anti-haze required. AP off. After start checklist.
Okay, after start checklist. Anti-ice.
Off.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Pitch trim.
1 upset. 1 upset.
Rudder trim.
0.
After start checklist complete.
Flight control check.
Ready?
Alright.
Full up. Full down. Neutral.
Why did that not go down? Oh, for crying out loud, now what's going on?
Full left. Full right. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral.
I'm a little worried because I can't seem to get the elevators to go down, only up. That is a little weird. This plane has been a little bit glitchy for me. Show me the tail. They go up. They don't go down at all. I'm a little bit worried. Okay. Give me one moment, guys. I'm going to try just a couple things and see if I can't fix this. Give me 1 second here. Okay, guys. I'm back with you here. So when I push forward on the elevators, it does seem to make the joystick move. I don't know why the flight controls are not showing motion down. But the joystick seems to move. I can definitely make them come back. So we're going to try this flight and hope that it all works out. Clear on the left.
Clear on the right.
Alright, park brake is off.
Air Canada 464, line of way, runway 24 right.
Line of way 24 right, Air Canada 464.
There we go. Tends to take a little bit of effort to get these engines moving. They tell you that from ground idle, they have quite the spool up time. That's one thing I have noticed, is they have quite the spool up time from ground idle. I should be sitting over here. There we go. That's better. Alright, well hopefully these controls work. I swear they went down before. I had a glitch in my last stream as well with this aircraft where the cabin pressurization system was having an issue, so I hope I don't have to uninstall and reinstall this aircraft. Because it's generally flown pretty well. I haven't had too many issues with it. Now, of course, now that I'm trying to stream with it, that's when I'm having issues.
Hold short 24 right.
Exit on Delta Tango, second left ahead on 24 right, Solaris 469.
And Solaris 469, hold short 24 right.
We'll hold short.
Toronto Transat 953 is coming up on Alpha Juliet.
Transat 953, runway 23, ATIS Charlie, altimeter 2997, taxi Alpha Hotel.
Okay, we have information Alpha, check 2997, taxi Alpha Hotel for Transat 953.
Air Canada 464, report airborne this frequency with me, wind 313, gust 19, clear for takeoff, runway 24 right.
Clear for takeoff 24 right, to call you airborne, Air Canada 464.
Flight deck. Okay, thanks for letting me know. Captain, the captain is secure.
Alright, thank you. Alright guys, we are underway now for another leg of a pilot's life here on Twitch. This time we are now flying the Airbus A320, so going to be a little bit different than what I've done before, but I'm sort of getting the hang of it slowly but surely. If you hear that clicking there in the background, that's because I have a dirty contact on my throttle quadrant. Now it's not going to do it, but there's a detent in the aircraft at the idle position. So you know the throttle's in idle, but If there's a little bit of noise, then it keeps moving in and out of idle.
Through
That's
1000.
triggers that clicking. So one of these days I'm going to take this throttle quadrant apart and clean it. I keep saying that. I think in every stream I say that at least once.
Identify climb flight level 230.
230, Canada 464.
But I've had it for a couple of years now, so it probably does need a cleaning at this point. Now, one thing for all of you pros out there taxiing the aircraft, one thing I was taught early on, when you're taxiing an aircraft around any airport, no matter how big or small, your head should be on a swivel.
469, line up
Should
away,
just be
runway
constantly
24
swinging from left to right, right to left. You never know when someone's going to pop out behind
Line up and
you,
right,
in front of you,
runway
that's
24
not
right,
authorized. Just because you're
469.
doing your job correctly and you're taxiing correctly doesn't mean anyone else is not going to make a mistake and potentially taxi right in front of you. It happened on a dark night once, where we had an aircraft pop out of a taxiway and cross right in front of us, maybe 100 or so feet in front of us, not authorized. And the controller quickly tore a strip off them when our FO kind of pointed out in a very kind and polite way. He said, "Hey, confirm we were clear to taxi this." And then the controller looked over and he saw the other airplane and he's like, "Hey, where are you going?" I don't want to state the airline, but he called out the airline flight number. He knew who it was. He could see it on the radar screen, but they had not called for taxi clearance. So just because you're cleared does not necessarily mean the way is clean. Because the way is clear, because there could be other people doing what they're not supposed to be doing.
on course, Air Canada 464.
Always keep an eye on everything at the airport. Before takeoff, checklist to the line.
Before takeoff checklist, down to the line. Flight controls,
Checked.
checked. Flight instruments,
Checked.
checked. Briefing,
Complete. Confirmed.
flap setting.
Config 1 plus F.
Config 1 plus F. V1, VR, V2 flex temp.
V1 151. VR 152. V2 156. Flex temp is 39 degrees.
Charlie altimeter 2997.
Flex temp is 39 degrees.
V1 is 151. V rotate is 152. V2 is 156.
Approach flare 469
And
airborne.
for the flex temp, we have 39 degrees.
And Solaris 469, thank you. You are identified. Climb flight level 230.
Set.
Flight level 230, Solaris 469.
Takeoff, no blue.
And Solaris 469, correction on that, maintain 1515,000.
15,000, Solaris 469.
Got somebody landing. Nice. It's a busy evening. That's the nice thing about flying a little later in the evening is it's busy on the VATSIM network. It really is. It's going to suck a little bit because it's going to be night. It'll be nice to show off the night mode in this flight deck.
Transat 953, line up away, runway 23.
Line up only 23, Transat 953.
Solaris 469.
Before takeoff, checklist below the line.
Before takeoff checklist, below the line. Cabin crew.
Direct to Oakville, Solaris 469.
Cabin crew, seats for departure.
Just for future reference, the SID is runway heading.
Advised.
TCAS.
There's no turn.
TARA.
We'll remember that. Thank you, Solaris
Engine mode
469.
selector.
Norm.
PAX.
On.
Okay, before takeoff checklist is complete.
This airplane definitely handles differently from the dash. It's a little bit more...
953, report airborne this frequency with me, wind 313, gust 19, clear for takeoff, runway 23.
Departure in the air with you, clear for takeoff, runway 23, Transat 953. It's a little bit tougher to get it lined up, but actually that's probably the best one I've done since I started flying this airplane. Takeoff.
Check.
Check thrust.
Thrust set.
Air Canada 464, call Toronto now 12577. Good night.
2577, good day.
$100 knots.
Checked.
WestJet 525, line up away, runway 23.
V1. Rotate.
WestJet 525, line up await runway 23.
Positive rate.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Air Canada 694, runway 24 right, 8 is Charlie, altimeter 2997. Exit apron Alpha Kilo, second left Bravo, Charlie, hold short 24 right. Exit Alpha Kilo, second left on Bravo, Charlie, and hold short 24 right, 8 minutes.
Gear up.
WestJet 525, line up await runway 23.
Autopilot 1 on.
Autopilot 1 on.
There we go. Now it's in the D10. It came out of it. One of them popped out of the D10.
Transat 953, Toronto arrival, you are identified. Climb flight level 230, turn right direct, Ursula on course.
Climb flight level 230, direct Ursula on course through 3800, Transat 953. 230 and direct.
Solaris 469 for hire,
Ursula.
call Toronto now on 12577.
I don't know why I just want to accelerate, so I'm going to pull it into manual speed here. Because I don't know why it's not accelerating.
525, ready check, you copy?
It said 250.
And WestJet 525, hear you 5 by 5 now, line up away runway 23.
What's your line to wait? Runway 23, ready check, 525.
And actually, WestJet 525, report airborne, this frequency with me.
Okay, I'm not sure why.
F19, clear for takeoff, runway 23.
It does not want. It's got me toga lock.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 23, WestJet 525.
Got the gear up, and for some reason that I do not understand, the flaps decide to retract themselves, and this airplane does not want to accelerate for reasons I don't understand. Alright. Autopilot on. Autopilot on.
Autopilot 1 on.
Messy departure. What are you doing here, buddy? Take off, put it back on. There we go. Now we got climb power. Okay. As you can see, I'm not the best at this aircraft. Now let's zoom out and see what we're actually doing here. Are we on our way to Tillum? Because I tried to go direct to Tillum and it just...
Andrew, is that 953, just confirm you direct Ursula?
in the turn direct Ursula, Transat 953. There we go. I don't know why it didn't turn. Okay, I don't know what happened there. I don't know why when we engaged the autopilot it didn't want to do anything properly. Flaps up.
Flap 0.
After takeoff checklist to the line.
After takeoff checklist, down to the line. Landing gear.
Up.
Flaps.
Retracted.
Packs.
WestJet 525,
On.
Roger, and just want to confirm your
to the line.
to the ILS.
Well, that's frustrating, because I did the departure before and she accelerated just fine. I don't know why she didn't want to accelerate there. It was in
Right, WestJet
managed climb
525
mode.
vectors for the ILS runway 23 in Toronto. You can fly present heading, climb to
Managed
4,000
climb mode.
feet.
It was in managed speed, and yet for some reason it just continued to try and fly slower and slower and slower until it eventually had to kick in toga just to prevent itself from stalling. And I understand that aspect of the system. What I don't understand is why, when it was set to the speed of 250, it wasn't going to a speed of 250. Oh, Airbus. When you work well. But sometimes, I wonder. Let's see if we've got, well, it seems like every time I fly this airplane now, I've got some kind of problem going on.
Bruce 1515, turn around, look at A, runway.
Alright, I thought we went direct to Ursula, but obviously, or direct to Tillum, but obviously it never took. And then I was too busy trying to prevent the airplane from stalling to notice that it hadn't turned successfully. So there's 10,000. After takeoff, there's 10,000. So he's got lights off. And this time the pressurization checks. The cabin's climbing, it's through 1900, climbing 100 feet per minute. It's working now. Well, that was very frustrating, and I'm sorry you guys had to see that. This is an airplane I'm not terribly familiar with, but the departure I did a couple of hours ago, earlier today, worked just fine. And I don't understand why, in this case, when we engaged the autopilot, it refused to try and... It kept on trying to pitch up even though the speed was too low. And it was trying to pitch up until it finally ran into the floor and...
525 Roger. Minimum safe altitude.
Frustrating. Very frustrating, because generally this airplane works quite well. Generally, I won't say I've mastered it. Mastered is not the right term, but I generally know how to operate it. I know how to get the airplane airborne without crashing, but I just don't understand what happened in that case.
Westjet 525, okay, Roger.
Very frustrating. And I'm sorry you guys had to see that.
Westjet 525, turn left 060.
Alright, she seems to be settled in nicely now.
060, Westjet 525.
Westjet 525, that's correct. And any deviations for terrain, just advise.
Deviations for terrain. Alright, now we seem to have it under control. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why.
Transat 953 for higher call, Toronto 12577.
Toronto Center now 125.77, Transat 953. Good night, thank you for the service.
Yeah.
Toronto Center, good evening, Transat 953, flight, correction, 14,300, climbing flight level 230.
Transat 953, Toronto Center, good evening, climb flight level 300.
Climb flight level 300, thank you, Transat 953. Okay, as I'm saying, I still don't know what happened there. I engaged the autopilot, we were in managed speed, managed climb. We should have been accelerating, but for some reason the speed came all the way back until basically it triggered the stall prevention system, which is unfortunate, and I don't know why that happened. I really don't. I'm a little bit stumped.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Maybe when I watch the video I'll see what happened and went wrong, but when I watch the replay. But I'm a little bit stumped at that, and then I got a little distracted. I am having to disengage the autopilot and hand fly. Once I pitched the airplane down, she accelerated perfectly fine. I thought maybe the gear was still down or something. I know the gear was up. It was just strange. It just didn't want to accelerate. It wanted to just keep flying nose up. So obviously I did something wrong. I don't know what. What's the temperature out there now? -5. We should have the anti-ice on. Yeah. Anyways. Overall, though, I do like this airplane. I think it's generally a very good airplane. This is the Aerosoft Airbus A321 Pro. Overall, a good airplane. Most of the things it does quite well. The flight deck, I really like the level of detail in the flight deck. Like, it really, really looks good. All the knobs look like you could just reach out there and touch them. The screens are wonderful. They're clear. They're crisp. The speed on them, the update rate of the screens is great. They look very smooth. That all looks good. The night lighting looks really good when you just start to activate it. It's pretty much getting to the point where we're going to start activating it now. I don't think we're going to get to another cloud, so we can go ahead and turn that anti-ice back off again. But the lighting on the panels here looks really good. It looks really nice. Like they just seem to glow with that yellowy tinge, but it's not overdone. It looks really quite nice. And if we're turning those on, we might as well turn on the logo light as well for the back end, as we slowly chase the sun westbound. So yeah, so from the inside, I like this airplane a lot. It does a few things here and there. Oh, and there it flashes at me because after takeoff checklist, below the line.
After takeoff checklist, below the line. Aero ref.
Standard set.
Standard set. After takeoff, checklist is complete.
And now we're done with him basically until we get ready for the approach again. So yeah, as I was saying, like I really do like this flight deck. I think it's a good flight deck. It really works well. 90% of the switches in here do what they're supposed to. There's a few that I discovered when I had pressurization issues. These cabin pressure switches actually don't do anything. It's fine. You shouldn't really need them anyways, but last time we had an issue where the cabin didn't pressurize. It just stayed at sea level essentially the whole time, and the differential increased until it was basically would have imploded the airplane. I guess exploded the airplane. Yeah, and this apparently has been a glitch as well with Aerosoft's Airbus family, and it's been hard to pinpoint. And every time they think they have it nailed down, someone comes back after their latest update and says, no, it still does it. Because it doesn't do it every flight, it just does it every once in a while randomly. No one seems to be able to figure out why the cabin just doesn't climb. It just sits there at sea level and the differential maxes out. But it happens irregularly. It doesn't happen on every flight, so it's very hard to figure out what's causing it. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it happens to a fair proportion of people. So there's something glitchy in there. What it is, why it happens, nobody seems to be able to really say, because every time they think they've got it fixed, someone else comes along and says, nope, it's still doing it for me. We'll probably see it again at some point in my career here. But now we're successfully on our way. We can zoom out here a little bit. So there was one person who asked me during my last stream, nobody's really talking to me, chatting with me much here, but this one person asked me in my last stream, does FS2 crew really help enhance this aircraft? And the short of it is yes, it really does. Now again, as I demonstrated, I am not an Airbus Pro. Not an Airbus Pro by any means. So, as you probably saw in this departure, the FS2 crew, he does a lot of the tasks in the flight deck. A lot. Powers up the airplane. Is constantly switching ECAM screens to the appropriate screen for you. Does a lot of the initial setup, and then beyond that, just a big help during the high workload parts of the flight. So during the takeoff and the landing, during the takeoff and the approach, does a lot of stuff for you, like raising the gear, bringing up the flaps when instructed. In this case, it didn't work the way it was supposed to, but bring up the gear, bring up the flaps, putting them down again when you're on final. That you can even ask them to adjust speeds and altitudes and everything when you're on final. So when you're focused on a certain task, like flying the airplane on approach, especially for hand flying, you can ask the Copilot to do things, and he will do them for you. So really great for that. Also really great for just setting up the airplane, getting the system set up. And this is not a hard airplane, really. As far as airplanes go, it's a pretty simple airplane. It does not take a lot of effort to set up this airplane. The 30-minute standard departure window. We definitely don't even need that whole departure window to get set up. I can probably have this airplane set up and ready to start in less than 20 minutes now. Even less if I load the flight plan right out of the stored company plans. So it's not a challenging airplane to operate, but it's still nice to have that FO. He does help out with a lot of those tasks. And between that and the GSX integration, that's one thing that Aerosoft has done better than I think any other airplane that I have seen, is the GSX integration is so tight on this. As you saw there with the loading. You just put in the fuel, you put in the fuel and the load, and then when GSX shows up, they'll just load all that stuff for you automatically. You just call for the fuel truck and call for the boarding, and then they will automatically load everything to the appropriate point for you without any additional effort. So the GSX integration is so nice and tight on this. It's a real plus in operating this airplane. You can basically do everything from inside the flight deck just by triggering GSX and using the secret MCDU that is the config screen for this airplane. But from within the sim, you can do all that stuff. It's really good.
X-ray India, you're identified.
Practical.
Do you need the weather for St. Catharines?
I'm just going to turn him down a little bit. From a practical day-to-day standpoint, it seems like this is a very well-designed airplane. Definitely designed to be operated in the flight sim, but very well tightly integrated with that. The FS2 crew really adds a lot to make it really... I can't talk over this guy.
-6, altimeter 29908. With the wind or with the weather, which runway and approach would you like for St. Catharines?
But the GSX integration with the FS2 crew from here is it's amazing. there's a little bit of a conflict between the FS2 crew and the GSX, but as you can see, I'm getting better at just sort of working both systems at the same time and using the strengths of each to the maximum advantage. And the integration is so well built into this airplane, it comes along very nicely. The reason I like the FS2 crew especially is because probably the biggest failing that I've seen on this aircraft, and I was very disappointed with it at first, not with the airplane as a whole, but with this one aspect, is that they have a virtual first officer that Aerosoft created to work with you. So if I go out of this page here and over to the checklist page, so I can have all the checklists trigger for me on the little green window at the top of the screen. It can trigger it can prompt me for all the checklist items as I'm doing them.
Roger, 29, and sorry, you said the visual for 29?
I can even turn on a Copilot who will also read me the checklist, and we'll go through the checklist together, much like FS2 crew. The one trouble I found is that Copilot, the scripting is very, very strict on it. The Aerosoft, and I've read in the forum, people complain about it, and Aerosoft said, well, these are the Airbus SOPs, and I understand that. But if you make a mistake in the phraseology at any point in time, if the FS2 crew or if the Aerosoft Copilot at any point in time you don't say the exact right response, you have a little slip up or whatever, or it gets hung up on something that's waiting for that you're not doing, there's no recovery from it. It's very, very linear script from one end of the flight to the other, through prep, before start, after start, taxi, all that stuff. If you make it all the way to the, if you get lost at any one point, you can't reset it, and this is where it really falls down, is that if you have a point where it either glitches out because you've done something incorrectly in the wrong order, because you made a mistake, because you're a human being, the Aerosoft FO can't recover from that. The nice thing is with FS2 crew is that you can recover from those things. So you can use these buttons here to scroll up and down through all the different procedures that are programmed in here, all the different approach phases. So if I didn't want to do the approach, if I wanted to go back and skip to the landing check, I could press down again, it would skip right to the landing check, I wouldn't have to do the approach check. So if you do everything correctly, it will automatically advance with on no input, but there is a way around it, and that's what's important to me, is there's a workaround. If something goes wrong, if you haven't done something correctly, there is a workaround that will get this, that will keep this going, that it won't fail you altogether, and that is, it's much more robust in that sense, and that makes it so much easier to use. I'm not perfect, when you start reading these scripts, like these SOPs, like they're quite, I won't say advanced, but they can be quite lengthy. A lot of items to memorize, and especially if you're a person who's flying not just this airplane, but you're also flying your 737, you're flying your MadDog, you're flying your Dash 8, whatever else. If you're jumping in and around from airplane to airplane, you're not doing this as a profession. You're not going to memorize every last word down to the letter, and that's what I found with the Aerosoft FO. He was so anal. It's probably the best word for it. He really, really wanted you to say exactly this, that, and the next thing. And if you fell off that script a little bit, it couldn't recover. It wouldn't go to the next checklist. You'd just be stuck on one checklist and it would never recover. And that was the big problem. FS2 crew can recover from those things, and it works with you a little bit better. So I like FS2 crew better. It works better. It's more robust. So I really like it. I think it's totally worth the money, and especially because with FS2 crew, I find that you do get a lot of money's worth. You get, not only do you get with FS2 crew in this case all the 320 series, but with the same package, it also supports the 330, because the 330 is such a similar airplane with such similar SOPs that they support it fully. So you buy it for the A320, and if you happen to have the A330 or pick it up later, boom, you're supported again. Your FS2 crew works with that as well with no additional effort. So, and the SOPs are almost the same, really, from a day-to-day operation. Yes, there's a few more systems in the 330 versus the 320, but the SOPs, the verbiage is almost exactly the same. Long story short, FS2 crew good. Really useful with this airplane though. Same as with the Dash, really useful. Take a few minutes here and just enjoy some external views here. I'm just going to move this out of the way so you don't even see this in external views, but we'll bring it back later when it's appropriate. But what a nice airplane. It does look really good soaring through the sky. It's quite noisy here on the external view. Seems like the flight controls are working okay. Checked. Let's see, you've got the lights strobes flashing at the wingtip. You even see little contrails just coming back here. You just see them just sort of flashing. They're so faint you may not even see them from this perspective. Maybe if I turn this way. One of the forward views here. I had a forward view here somewhere. There's this one. There you go. Yeah, a little contrail forming there behind the engine. But overall, a very nice detailed airplane. Nice, slick, clean lines. It reflects the sunlight nicely. Lights flashing appropriately. It looks really quite good. The paint job, this paint job especially, is really nice. I forget exactly where I got it. There's a website, I forget who it is, that has a whole bunch of really good freeware repaints for a lot of the major aircraft manufacturers, developers. And this is one of them. And it looks really nice. I gotta say, it looks really good. It looks a little tiny bit dirty, which is good because that's the way an airplane is. These airplanes do not stay clean. They see lots of heavy use. The only way they get clean most of the time is flying through a thunderstorm. That's about it. Yeah, sounds like we reached cruise because I can hear the engine cycling down there. You get a little close in and you start to see a little, some of these things are not totally crisp. If I zoom right in, okay. From this distance, not totally crisp. But I'm still pretty happy overall. I think it's a pretty nice looking airplane. And there we are, level at 300 in cruise, and we got some climbs later in our flight plan. Now, one thing that I will say that Aerosoft did really well, and I believe this is really, if I can recall correctly, this is really an offshoot of the 330, is the EFB. The EFB on this airplane is really, really well done. I think possibly the best EFB I have seen to date in a sim airplane. Really, really useful. Now,
Transat 953, contact Minneapolis Center 133.4. Good day.
Minneapolis Center 133.4 for Transat 953. Good day. Minneapolis Center, good evening. Transat 953, level 300, 20 miles from CASID.
Transat 953, Minneapolis, hello. Got you ready to contact 300.
Thank you. So as I was saying, this I think is probably one of the nicest things about this airplane. And it's not the only nice thing. The airplane overall is really nice, but this really adds so much, especially for me as a streamer, where everything I need to show you is here in the flight deck. I don't want to play with it too much because this is what killed my sim last time, is playing with this too much. But it does some things really nicely. So to start with, we have checks and flows. So on the left side of the screen, all the various different places, different procedures, and then in order, PF and PM, pilot flying and pilot monitoring, exactly what you've got to do at each step. So if you forget your flows at any point in time, you can come to your EFB and your EFB will tell you. That's pretty useful. I tend to learn the flows pretty quickly and easily, and they're fairly straightforward in this airplane, so I don't need to refer to this too much, but nice to have them there. Where this thing really starts to shine is here, the charts page. Full integration with NavData Pro or Navigraph, whichever you like. And as we saw before, all the charts here are in here. You could scroll through this list if you wanted to till the cows come home, but what you can do is you can also use this keyboard and filter charts. Type in the name of an airport. So you can type in whatever you want to do. So I could do CYYZ-CYVR, and it'll just search for any portion thereof too. So there it found CYVR. I meant to type in CYVR. Because I believe in the ICAO identifiers more than the IATA ones. But anyways, and here's a list of all of these. You can do the same thing and filter these charts. So you can search through these charts for any particular name of a chart you're looking for, whether it be by runway or whether it be by the arrival. So I don't know why we don't have an arrival programmed in. When we get to booth, we should have one of these. We should probably have the Canuck arrival programmed in. I don't know which runway we're using when we get there. It's a long time to Vancouver still, so we're not going to program that in yet. But what we can do then, once we've found out what we're doing, is we can, right here, press this chart button, or we can right-click here, I believe, and you can add to kneeboard. So the kneeboard right here is just simply a clip of all the charts you need for the current flight. So you can just clip relevant flights for your current flight here, and then you don't have to go through a whole long list. It's just the SID, the STAR, the taxis charts that you might need for this particular flight. You can even rotate the charts, zoom in and out, but the nice thing is you can use the mouse cursor. Click on it and drag to move it around. You can use the mouse cursor to zoom in and out. They're fully interactive. These are the Navigraph charts. Also works with Nav Data Pro. You can also have a favorites tab where you can have your favorite airport here all the time. So this is how I found Toronto. So if you have if you could have, for example, all your airline's destinations, just 18 or 20 of them here, or you could just have a couple of places that you visit frequently here, and then you don't have to constantly go searching through the list and typing things in. So that's really nice. Again, you can add any of these to the kneeboard very quickly by clicking the button. Kneeboard can be emptied out at any point in time by right-clicking anything and hitting remove from kneeboard. This down here is just some settings for the Charts app. The Charts app is really good for the most part. There is one drawback to it. There's one problem with it for anyone that hasn't used it, and that is that for Navigraph, you have to sign in before every flight. And you have to remember to do it before you load the airplane. If you try to load the airplane and you haven't signed into Navigraph using the airplane configurator that Airbus includes, then you will not, then your Navigraph subscription will not be loaded, and then you'll just get an error and you'll just get a blank charts page. This is as much a limitation of the way Navigraph allows their charts to be displayed in this airplane as it is the way Aerosoft has set it up. It's more, I think, on Navigraph to come up with a more, because Navigraph basically wants you to sign in every single time you use your charts, so you're not, using them when you're not, when you haven't paid for them, which is fine, and I understand that, but it just makes it very awkward, because if you load this airplane and you forget, once this EFB has loaded, you cannot, and if it's loaded and the Navigraph charts are not in there, you cannot load them after the fact, and that's a little frustrating sometimes. I get annoyed with that, because it happens on a pretty regular basis, unfortunately. But other than that, the charts on here are great. They look pretty good. I mean,
EPS 4930
within reason anyways. You have to kind of zoom in a little bit to see them sometimes, but nevertheless, to have them here on the EFB in the flight deck, great. The next thing in here that is really useful is the EFF, and this is where I'm going to be careful so I don't crash it. So there's a calculations page where you can calculate your takeoff and landing data, and then there's a flight package page here. And this right here, you'll see I looked at it earlier, this right here is a PDF, and as you can see, it's pretty much just a standard PDF web browser here.
Chicago is offline, radar service terminated, switch to advisors approved, good day.
I'm going to turn him down a bit again so I can talk over him. But this, is a complete PDF reader, and you can download from SimBrief onto your flight plan. SimBrief has a little downloader. You just hit the download button. This gets downloaded onto your computer, overwrites whatever's there, but then you have your PDF for your flight plan. A full SimBrief flight plan loaded in here. You can scroll through it. You can zoom in and out. It's a full-fledged web browser, essentially. The nice thing is you can go to bookmarks, too. So SimBrief correctly generates bookmarks for all the different points in your flight plan. You can see the ATC flight plan that was filed. You can see the weather list for your destination airport. You can see the NOTAMs, company NOTAMs. The maps at the end of the flight plan. You can skip to all these pages really easily because it's a full-fledged PDF reader. Really nice. Really nice to have all of this here at your disposal, at your fingertips, and not even have to leave the sim, not even have to look at another screen. Just look around in the flight deck, and everything you need is there. As well, there are links to various weather pages here. This weather page here is just supposed to generate metros and TAFs. I can't seem to get the keyboard to work very reliably in this. I'm fine with that. The place where this falls down. Actually, let me get back to that. You also have a docs page here, which again is just a PDF reader, but you can pre-specify through your airplane configurator a bunch of documents to be included. So you can have your checklist in here. You can have your FS2 crew I put in here. So I put in my FS2 crew script, so if I forget what FS2 crew is doing, I can look it up in my script right here. So any PDF that you want, you just have to put it in a certain... you just have to actually link it in the configurator. Just open it up, add it to the list in the configurator. I think there is a limit to the number of PDFs you can have, but you can have any PDF in there. The place where it falls down, where this EFB falls down sometimes, is there's a links page here, and you can actually surf the web. You can actually, I won't say you can surf the web, but you can have a pre-populated
Delta Tango Alpha.
A pre-populated set of links to popular websites. You can have SkyVector, you can have FlightAware, you could have your Navigraph in there if you wanted to. The browser sometimes is what causes this airplane to crash, so I'm not going to even click it today because I don't want to crash this again. That's the one place where this falls down, and Aerosoft has acknowledged that they do still have issues with the web browsing. It's gotten better, but when I clicked on a link in the previous stream, that's when the stream crashed. That's when the sim crashed and the stream ended, so I'm not going to click on it, but even just the charts and the flight planning function on this EFB are amazing. There is a night mode, so as it gets darker, we can switch to a dark mode. The chart doesn't change, but the second you load another chart it will load it in night mode, and then you can go back to the original chart if you want. So the charts, when they get reloaded, they look at what the current mode is. They don't change it when you change the button. But otherwise, a really nice, tightly integrated EFB. Does everything you expect an EFB to do. I really like this. This almost alone is worth the price of admission to this airplane. So yeah, overall, I like this airplane. I think this airplane was worth the money. It's a very nice model overall. Few little glitches here and there still, but overall a very nice airplane. I like it a lot. Hoy. All right, so one other thing that happened today, and I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but
Air Transat 953, clear direct MyDot.
All right, direct MyNot. Is that Mike Oscar Tango for Transat 953?
Affirm.
Direct Mike Oscar Tango. Thank you, Transat 953.
Welcome.
All right, direct to MyNot, whatever. MyNot, I think he said. I can go to the flight plan and check. Flight package. Because all of my waypoints are spelled out right here. MyNot. Yep, it is MyNot. Okay, now I know. Learned a new VOR today. So now we're direct to MyNot. Yeah, so one thing that did come out today, probably most of you out there in the sim world caught it, but just in case you didn't, I'm just looking it up because I'm going to pull it over here for you to look at. Da-da-da. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. Hi, cannot find it. Alright, anyways, I found it here on some website anyways. So most of you might have seen this already, but Microsoft finally revealed, after lots of waiting, the minimum recommended and ideal specifications for their new Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. And for those of you that have watched the channel with any regularity, you know that I'm not necessarily 100% sold on this simulator yet. It looks good. It looks really good in theory. But will the actual end result, will the final product, match the hype here? I wonder if I can make this bigger just to make it easier to read. If I stretch this browser window this way, oh, that makes it bigger. There you go. Yeah, I can just do that, and then it makes it nice and big. You guys can hopefully read that nicely now.
Information Delta current Minneapolis, wind 08011 gust 1.
But yeah, so they finally announced the specifications for Microsoft Flight Simulator, which makes me think that if they're announcing this, that they're getting a bit closer to a release date. I mean, this is something that's now been teased for, it's been, what, 8 months now, I think, maybe more. They've been sort of teasing along, like, involving us in the development process, but since the announcement came out, it's been almost 8 months. So the fact that they're finally now bringing out the specs makes me think we're starting to get into, okay, they're starting to look at the final versions. They're starting to say this is what, I don't know if they're sort of guaranteeing this, if this is a target, but this is what they say you're going to need. And to look it over, it's not that bad. When you're looking at these screens, these trailers in 4K with these absolutely gorgeous scenery, you begin to ask yourself, what kind of a computer am I going to really realistically need to run to do this, to use this sim? Is my computer really going to run it, or am I going to have to go out and buy a brand new sim to be able to do it? And I think more and more people were starting to ask that. I know I was. I looked at it and I said, wow, that looks really good. But immediately, as soon as you say, wow, that looks really good, then the next question is, okay, so what do I need to make it look that good? And a lot of the media people were saying, yeah, we try it out on some pretty reasonable computers. Well, here we have kind of our final answers. And it's not bad. It needs Windows 10. Across the board, no, hands down, Windows 10. Fine. It's a modern operating system. Whatever. But to look at the CPU requirements, they're not terrible as a minimum. An i5-4460 is really not an expensive processor. You can have a pretty low-end system and you still be able to run this. You won't see those pretty 4K graphics. You'll have to turn a lot of stuff way down probably to be able to do it. But it's doable. I would say pretty much almost any simmer out there today could probably run it under the minimum specs category. An i5-4460 or a Ryzen 3 1200. And for GPU only needing an NVIDIA GTX 770 or a Radeon RX 570. Those are pretty low end, especially now into 2020. Those are some pretty low end chips right there. You're not exactly you're not exactly dropping a cool K on a system to build it with just those components. At a minimum, 2 gigabytes of VRAM. Again, not a lot. 8 gigabytes of RAM. That's really not a lot in 2020. Yeah, it's really not that bad. You start to compare it to the recommended specs. So this is sort of the minimum that'll get you some decent performance anyways. Now you're looking at an i5-8400. It's not a terrible CPU. It's kind of a mid-range CPU, and you should get some decent performance out of it. A GTX 970, again, or the AMD equivalents here, the Ryzen 5 1500X, the Radeon RX 590. These are not bad specs. 4 gigabytes VRAM, okay, that's kind of standard, I think, by today's standards. Most people who have built or bought a computer in the past, probably 3 or 4 years, or probably at least 2 or 3 years, anyways, probably would meet the recommended specs. 16 gigabytes of overall RAM, still 150 gigabytes of hard drive space, not bad. Then, of course, there's the ideal. If you want to run this at 4K, with full scenery detail, all the sliders all the way over to maximum, you're going to need a pretty toasty system here. An i7-9800X with an NVIDIA RTX 2080 featuring 8 gigabytes of VRAM and 32 gigabytes of system RAM. Or a Ryzen 7 Pro 2700 with a Radeon 7 card. Again, 8 gigabytes of VRAM, 32 gigabytes of RAM. This is not your grandfather's computer. This is an expensive system. You're probably dropping easily $2 to $3 grand just on the computer alone on this system here to build it with the video card, the processor, and of course everything else you need to go with it. And SSD becomes a requirement if you want to really meet that ideal performance. You can operate it off a hard disk drive. Apparently it is acceptable, but the SSD will get you better performance. So interesting specs. I fit somewhere in the middle here, more closer to the recommended spec end than the ideal spec end, but I fit somewhere into this in between these two. So I definitely should be able to run it on this rig that we're on right now. It's not going to be beyond my current computer's capabilities, which is nice. Again, I'm not in a rush to go and buy it, but I haven't dismissed it either. I want to see what it's about. I want to start seeing real people use it, if you'll pardon the expression, but trailers always are made to look better. So they're always showing off the best of what you can get. I want to see more. What is the average person getting out of this before I decide whether it's worth it? Also, the other question, of course, still be the add-ons. How compatible are the add-ons I already have? Am I going to have to pay for the 737 for another iteration? Those kind of questions are going to also determine how fast I move out of the P3D platform and into Flight Simulator, if at all. Now that P3D version 5 is out, I may opt for that route. I have not decided at all. I'm going to probably wait until after Flight Sim comes out and see some head-to-head comparisons and see which one looks better. But those are the specs right there. As you can see, the hard disk space, 150 gigabytes. That is a lot of hard disk space. I mean, it's not in this day and age, but it still is quite a hefty chunk for one piece of software, which means that you're going to have a decent amount of scenery coverage around the world without even having to be connected to the internet. You'll see there is a bandwidth requirement down here. I'll talk about that in a second. But 150 gigabytes, regardless of which level system you're running, the base scenery is still going to take up 150 gigabytes, which is 10 times more than you're using right now easily. So it's not... it's definitely going to have a much more detailed world even without the online connection, which is great. But it's the online connection that I think it's also going to kind of make or break this software. So you can see it's got 3 different tiers here depending on your min, recommended, and ideal for bandwidth, where you'll be downloading a stream of satellite data and be flying over satellite data instead of just stored scenery. Constantly updated satellite data instead of just stored scenery. For the minimum specs, running at lower texture levels, 5 megabits, most people will have that. Even 20 megabits, I think most people have that. And 50, okay, that's a lot. It's not terribly unreasonable, though. A lot of people will be able to meet this spec without too much. But it makes you wonder how much of a difference it's going to make. How much, are you getting different quality scenery textures, with the different packages here. I hate to say packages, but, depending on what tier you meet, are you going to Are you going to have problems with things not downloading? Are they going to automatically be able to adjust your, adjust the bandwidth of information being sent to you, much like Netflix does to keep the show going? You've got a slow internet today. You're going to be cut back to some lower textures, but we'll keep the scenery moving towards you in a consistent fashion. So it's interesting that even that can be varied. Yeah, I'm happy to see that definitely my computer will run this software. Whether or not I choose to is a whole different story, but I think most of you will easily, pretty much almost anyone who's running a sim today will easily meet the min specs. And I think most people will probably comfortably fall somewhere close to the recommended specs without too much system upgrade today. So that's good, and that's interesting, because having that out there now makes me think that we are starting to get into endgame in terms of the development process. They have decided to set down some specifications, so the product is starting to approach its final form. Not there yet, I'm sure, but approaching final form. So there we go. Sun is slowly going down, but we're chasing it too as we head westbound. Let's see here, what can I do? One thing I can do, because it's a little bit harder to show it off now, this is the only thing that's missing from the Navigraph charts on my EFB, is my kind of my position as we go here. So we're kind of over Upper Michigan here now. I think this is the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. Actually, I think this is the Upper Peninsula. We're over Lower Michigan now, between Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. So we're slowly making some progress. We've still got a long way to go, guys. A long way to go. Vancouver's a long flight. So this is something new that I'm doing now. Like this, working for Transat is obviously going to have some long legs, guys. It's not going to be short. that's the long of it. It's not going to be short. So what I am going to do in this stream, and probably for most of my streams going forward, since they're going to be 4 to 5 hour legs, is I will have some commentary going here for the first, probably the first hour or so of the
53, how do you read?
Of the leg, and then once we settle comfortably into cruise, and I've probably talked about as much as I'm going to talk, I probably will step out of the flight deck for a period of time and come back for about an hour before our arrival to set up our arrival. But I cannot sit here and probably chat to you guys for 5 straight hours. I think most of you will acknowledge that that's pretty impractical. So I'm not going to be doing that. My plan is to step out of the flight deck here in probably about another 20 minutes or so, and I'll leave it in a nice, beautiful external view for you guys to watch as the world goes by, and I'll set a return time, and I'll definitely return by that time. But I just don't think I can talk for that long. Because this is going to be the new norm now. We are going to be doing mostly 4-hour legs, 5-hour legs, as we go through our pilot's life schedule. I can't pull it up now, but the next leg I do after this is, I can pull it up, I can show you anyways over here, is going to be continuing from Vancouver, not obviously today, but from Vancouver, it's going to be down to Puerto Vallarta, which is somewhere down here. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's somewhere along this coast here. Is that, no, that's Playa, Acapulco. I'm sorry, I don't know my Mexico at all. That's it right there, Puerto Vallarta. There it is. I know it's on the west coast of Mexico, but about halfway down, but I don't know my Mexican. Anyways, just to look at it, you can see that's another similar leg. I think it's going to be a little bit shorter, but if I'm guessing, it's in the neighborhood of 4 hours for that one, so I cannot sit here and chat for that long. So, and then from Puerto Vallarta, we're going to go straight back to Toronto. So this first leg is going to be a triangle, then after that it's going to be a lot of out and back. So it's going to require a little bit more planning on my part, I think, than I have needed in the past, because these are long legs, and I cannot sit here for 5 to 6 hours. I ran out of things to talk to you guys about after about an hour, I think. If anybody has a question or something they want to say, you want to criticize my takeoff and the A320, you don't have to criticize it. I criticized myself enough on that one. That was brutal. That was not well done. I should have disengaged the autopilot sooner when it was not doing what I expected. That probably was the first thing I did wrong. Really was to not... I tried to recover it using the autopilot. I tried to get it to go back into managed mode, and it would not fly the managed speed for some reason. I don't know why. It didn't want to find it. But I had to disengage it, fly it by hand, and then put it back in there. And then it sort of found it after that. When I re-engaged the autopilot, it sort of figured it out. But yeah, it didn't want to figure it out at first, and I really don't know why. Maybe when I watch the instant replay of this, I will figure it out. But this is the life of an airline pilot in many cases, though. Long legs, 1 leg a day, 4 or 5 hours in the airplane. You get to know the guy sitting next to you pretty well sometimes. What do you like on Netflix lately? What do you think of the union contract? Do you live close to the airport? Ask all sorts of things, inane things, but yeah. But yeah, you end up finding small talk. That's been long enough in cruise, though, that we probably should do a little cruise check here. Let's see here, I want to go ahead and close this off, and so about every half an hour or so in cruise, you should do a little position check and check what you're doing against the flight plan. So first of all, let's check us against Vancouver here. We're showing a 3:57 Zulu arrival in Vancouver right now based on our present rate of progress. That's just before midnight Eastern time. That'll be about 9 p.m. Vancouver time. So not terribly late. The sun will probably be down, but it probably won't be all that far down below the mountains by the time we get to Vancouver, which is good. Hopefully we'll have some evening ATC online. That's what I'm also hoping for. This may be a good one where we actually get nearly continuous ATC across the whole way here. So as we check this out, we're going to have 5.6 fuel when we get over Vancouver. The minimum, according to our flight plan. Let's come back here and just check it out again here. Pardon me. Let's see here. So our minimum fuel over Vancouver is about 3 tons. Less than 3 tons. 3 tons will get us to our alternate and still have 30 minutes of alternate fuel. We're showing 5.6, so we're actually coming in with almost 2 tons extra right now. That's not looking too bad. That'll give us probably at least a good 30 minutes of extra holding fuel or vectoring fuel, which is good because it's supposed to be a little bit rainy in Vancouver when we get there, so it's not going to be the nicest evening in Vancouver when we get there.
Goes 4670, read back correct, runway 9 for departure advisory to taxi, wind 090.
Let's see what else we have to do. Also, as part of our 30-minute check, so every 30 minutes we should come through and check everything. So basically we'll go through all the ECAM pages and make sure everything makes sense, and we can even check it against our flight plan as well. Fuel checks will be done when you reach a point, but we can estimate at Moline there. If I hit this button right here, I don't have any winds anywhere, but it's estimating 10.8 over Mott, and we can verify that against our flight plan here. So estimated fuel on board, EFOB, estimated fuel on board at Mott is 11.1. We're showing 10.8, so we're actually showing a little bit down below the estimated fuel. Oh, but this estimated fuel was actually more than we had planned to load, because we had loaded, this was based on actually loading 20.1 and we had loaded 19.1, so in reality our estimated fuel over Mott should be our estimated fuel over Mott should be 11.1 minus 1, which would be 10.1, so we're actually up because we have 10.8. One thing I don't see on here that we should have on a flight plan is our min fuel on board, MFOB at each point. What is the minimum amount of fuel you should have on board at each point to still make it to your destination? Because if it drops below that number, you might have a problem. But anyway, so the fuel situation looks pretty good based on that calculation. In cruise, we've used up almost 4 tons of fuel already getting up to cruise and getting along here for the first hour. Oil situation looks good, vibrations look normal, landing elevation is already 0 feet. It looks like our cabin's level just below 6,000 with 7.5 on the diff, which is great. And it looks like everybody's happy and warm, 24 degrees in the cabin. There we go.
148, change back to Unicom, you're just north of my airspace, sir.
Alright, engine page, have a quick look, everything's still normal, pressure's looking good, 24, temperature looks good, lead system, PSI looks good, temperatures look good, packs are running at high, and putting some warm air into the cabin. Pressurization system, alright, we're not in the red on any of these, a little bit below max diff, the valve is closed, all the valves are closed, looking good, electrical page, everything's putting out reasonable amperage, 25% use on the generators, lots of excess electrical power still. Hydraulics, everything's 3,000 feet in the green. Fuel, again, central tank is starting to empty out, but the outer tanks are looking good, 6 tons in each. Still got lots of fuel left. APU's not running, conditioning, everything's set to 24 and staying at 24. None of the doors are open. Wheels, flight controls. Flight controls seem to be working fine. I think the pitch indication thing was just an indication thing. And that's it. So we've gone through all the ECAM pages, so that's a good 30-minute check, and that also kept us a little bit more occupied in what we were doing here as we continue to chase that sun westward. She is a gorgeous evening, though. And nice to have some ATC online. Just look at my other screen over here and just see, as I zoom out my VATS by, once I reach the end of Minneapolis airspace, I got nothing right now. But there is some Vancouver control online, hopefully. It's online now. We're not going to be there for still about 3 more hours from now, 3.5 hours from now. So hopefully somebody is still online in Vancouver when we get there. Hi. But there you go. I think that's just about all I'm going to be doing probably for this cruise phase today. One thing we can do is check our flight plan. I think we had a couple of step climbs in there as well. So let's see what we had here. Back to page 1. We had a step climb to 320 up beam Duluth. So let's see if we can find Duluth here. Let's zoom out as far as we can get. Let's go to VORDME and see if we can find Duluth. Saginaw, Traverse City. No, I think Duluth is still coming up somewhere in another. Nope, don't want to do that. Sorry, that's what I want to do. That's okay. There's Marathon. Yeah, there's Duluth. It's still pretty much right along our route. It's 200 miles away. So our first step climb to 320 at Duluth, and then our fourth at Minot.
Sky was 4670.
So still a little ways to go before we get the climb going.
Heading runway 9, clear for takeoff.
Still making a bit of a contrail behind us there. And she's apparently a full bus today, 216 people, so only 4 empty seats in the back of this Transat airplane today as we head out to Vancouver. Good to see we're making money for this airline. But this is long haul flying. This is not even long haul, this is medium haul. The flight to Amsterdam is going to be a very long stream. This is going to be my longest stream to date, I think, anyways, when it's done with probably almost 5 hours, including 5.5 hours, including the setup and everything else. That, wow, when we get to, when we do that Schiphol flight, that's going to be quite the epic stream. I wonder if this one was meant for a smaller version of the bus, because it just seems a little bit too zoomed in, doesn't it? Maybe we can just pan it backwards a little bit so we can actually catch the whole airplane. There we go, that's a little better. Update that. Then when you fly the 320 and the 319, you'd be like, oh, it's why is the airplane so small? Why are we so far away from it? Now, one thing I did not realize about ChasePlane when they made the switch there to Parallel 42, or not to Parallel 40, but to the Orbex platform, was that they stopped with the community presets. I didn't realize that for a long time. I really enjoyed the community presets. There were some really nice ones out there. People spent some time in there, and they distributed them. And I read the post about it, for those of you that haven't read it. Basically, what it comes down to is they decided that the way the algorithm was written for the community presets, the ones that were most popular kept moving further and further up the list, and you'd never see anybody else's ever. It wasn't a very good because there was no real way to search through them very well, there was a little bit of a search function, but what ended up happening was people would search for very general terms that have been mentioned in like 40 or 50 different presets, and only the most popular ones would show up at the top of that list. So everyone would have the same presets, and you wouldn't ever really see much variety in it. And that was, I guess that was why they disabled that system, because it wasn't working the way they had intended anymore. So now all your presets are stored locally, which is fine, but I'm a little bit disappointed that the presets are harder to access now in terms of just quickly getting stuff. Because when you get a new airplane, you don't have time to set up like 40 or 50 different presets, or even like 10 presets. It takes a while to move around the airplane and set up new ones. So it's a bit disappointing that you can't quickly add a whole bunch of already. I thought I turned the logo light on. These should be on, I think. That you can't add a whole bunch of new presets quickly. That you have to either go download them from the website, manually copy them to the directory. You know, the integration into the ChasePlane app was good before, so I'm a little bit disappointed in that. I hope that they do come up with a new community sharing system soon, because that was a good system. It wasn't the best, and I realized there were problems with it, but it was nice to be able to quickly and easily set up a bunch of different views. Like, hey, I don't have a left rear view of this airplane. Quickly type in search, and you might find like 6 different ones. And the preview function was really neat. You'd run your mouse over a view, and without having to download it, it would just show you, hey, this is what it looks like, and then you can add it to your list or not. That was really well done. I really like that. So I missed that a little bit. It made like for just a really quick and easy setup when you got a new airplane in your fleet.
That was 4670 with a contact, climb, maintain 16,000, turn right heading.
Just made it really quick and easy, and I missed that already. Alright, how are we doing? Still 357? Oh, now we're adding some time, 358. I need to switch this back to, there we go. Time and altitude and everything. Okay. Not too many fixes left on this flight, though. After my lot, we go to Bevel, and then direct to Booth. Once you get away from eastern US and Canada, things get really simple and direct. In the eastern part of these countries, my god, the waypoints, the complexity of the flight plan. The shorter the flight plan, it seems, the more waypoints you get in it. You get a 30-minute flight plan from Boston to New York, and you'd have 30-something waypoints in there. You got a flight that crosses half the continent, and we got like 6 waypoints in the entire flight plan, 8 waypoints in the entire flight plan. Well, the sun's definitely going down. It's slowly transitioning into night here, and we're slowly getting darker and darker in this flight deck. It will be night, sadly, by the time we arrive in Vancouver. It was not my original plan, but sometimes in life, too, things just don't go as planned. And especially true in aviation. Planes break down all the time. Not all the time, but when you're in this business, it feels like planes break down all the time. At least every couple of times you come to work, you'll have a plane with something. Whether maintenance fixes it right away or whether it turns into a long delay, you don't know. But that's just the way life is in aviation. There's delays.
4670,
It's not something anybody wants, but it's just the way life happens. Anybody has anything they want to chat about, please feel free to bring it up here in the chat window. I'm kind of running on empty with ideas to chat about, and I'm going to probably sign off in about 10 minutes from actively monitoring this stream.
South 3578 Minneapolis Center, good afternoon.
Oops, sorry guys.
Maintain flight level 310.
Trying to bring up something else here that I need to do here, but no, it's not there, is it? Nope. Okay. Thought it was there, but it's not, so just trying to set up for my time away here, because I'm going to put a little message here to tell you what time we're going to be back at. Why does that keep opening on that screen? You silly thing. I'm trying to do this quietly without anyone knowing. And anyways. So much for that. So much for the art of surprise in the stream world. Oh well. guys are a quiet bunch today. I'm watching this stream. I know there's a few of you out there watching, and thank you very much for watching, guys. And I do appreciate you guys watching. I do appreciate you supporting the channel. It's the reason I keep streaming. If you guys were not watching and you know, commenting at least every once in a while on what you see, I would not be doing these streams anymore. And if you haven't, make sure you subscribe as well to me on YouTube. I post these videos and more. I post videos of all my Twitch streams as well as more on the YouTube channel, and I do appreciate your support. The channel's growing quite quickly, and I'm very happy about that. And one thing I do plan on doing when we do reach 1,000 subscribers on my channel is I'm going to have at least a little mini giveaway. How much I give away, it's going to depend a little bit on you guys, on how enthusiastic you are. It's going to depend a little bit on how the external world works, because frankly, my income has been cut substantially. So I may not have a lot of funding to provide a contest, but I am going to try and put some sort of contest together when I reach 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, because I honestly thought I would never reach 1,000. When I first started that channel, I thought I might see a few hundred subscribers if I was lucky. I'm still, to this day, shocked at how many of you guys actually really do enjoy these videos, watch these videos over and over again. I'm surprised. I'm happy. It's a pleasant surprise, but I never thought when I started that channel that I would really get that many views. I never did, or subscribers. So this year especially, I guess because everyone's home doing nothing much, the last month or so, the amount of time people have spent watching my channel has really ramped up. It has been a noticeable bump, and I do appreciate that, and I'm trying to put content out more continually. That's why I'm doing these Twitch streams, to get more content out there. It's fairly, I won't say easy content, because it's not easy necessarily to get a Twitch stream out there all the time, but once the Twitch stream is done, it doesn't usually take a lot of effort for me to get it transferred into my YouTube channel, but I am still putting together also other content as well. Thank you. No, N91020 just appreciates the commentary. And you know what, even just saying that, I appreciate that, because sometimes I feel like I'm literally just rambling to myself. So to know that you guys do appreciate what I'm trying to say here and chat about, you know, I'm trying to bring some perspective to, you know, this is what airline flying is like. 90% of it is sitting here going through the air. One thing that's different about the real world versus VATSIM is that you change frequencies a fair bit more often than you do on VATSIM. VATSIM, there would probably be about 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 Minneapolis controllers, depending on the time of day, and you might pass through 3 or 4 of their sectors, but you probably change frequency at least once every half hour. You go to New York, you change frequency every 5 minutes sometimes. So that adds a little bit of interest. Right now, I know where the end of Minneapolis airspace is. I am listening, and this is an interesting skill that pilots get after a while, is they get the ability to listen to the radio and tune, and yet not listen to the radio at the same time. They can distract themselves with a conversation with their co-pilot or with anybody else, and still always have one ear just kind of tuned to the radio and just listening for your call sign, not much else. And you may miss the call, but you may be aware that there was a call that came in for your call sign. You may even not quite focus in on it fast enough to catch the whole thing, but it's funny how pilots can do that. And I've had so many people comment on it when they're sitting in the flight deck. How do you guys do that? How do you guys hear only your call and not the 100 other calls that are coming in constantly? There's so much background noise and so much background chatter on the radio. How do you know your call? It's a skill. It really is. You start to do more and more, and you can pick your call sign out of others. I think it comes down to also, it's just even just the briefest pause every time you hear a new transmission start, just to try and identify that call sign. The trouble with the airline business, though, too, is that you change call signs so often. If you're flying for a regional carrier and doing 3 flights a day, you might forget which flight you're on sometimes. Especially if you were not the one working the radio for the last hour or so. If the other pilot was working the radio for the last half hour, you know, you may forget their call sign. Or if you know, especially for captains, this is kind of a captain's curse, because most airlines, especially in regional aircraft, only the captain has a tiller, so only the captain will taxi. So on the ground, the FO will be doing all the talking on the radio. So you know, if it's the FO's like to fly, the captain will take over on the runway and go to call departure, and he'll just sit there and be like, we are flight, because he hasn't said the flight number yet. You know, they've been in the airplane for 30, 45 minutes. He hasn't said the flight number once yet, and has to really kind of struggle, like, I don't know what flight we are. And look around for the flight plan quickly and like, I don't know what it is. Captains especially suffer from that. The FOs do all the radio calls usually on the ground, so it's the captain that usually will be, you'll know that the captain took over because there'll be that pause after takeoff. I don't know the flight number. Just a second. Oh. Can't think of too much else out there in the flight sim world that's created any news this week. The minimum specs there for flight sim, I think, was the big news. Developers keep on announcing stuff that they are supporting P3D version 5, which is great. It's good to see a whole bunch of stuff, especially scenery, because scenery we end up investing a lot of money. You know, one airport's expensive, but a lot of us spend a lot of money overall on scenery. But the airplanes also individually are expensive, so you want to know that your investment's going to carry over. And I think it seems like a lot of them will. It seems like probably I will upgrade to version 5 myself in a few months, once most of my favorite airplanes are firmly established on that platform. I am not a guinea pig. Especially if you're streaming. You don't want to be doing guinea pig stuff on a stream. You want to sort of look like you know what you're doing. I saw that the MadDog was updated today. I don't think that was for version 5, though. I think that was just... I briefly skimmed the email. I believe that was they have officially taken the latest version out of beta and into the mainstream, which, yeah, actually, thank you for pointing that out. That is really good, because I like the MadDog. The Fly the MadDog is a really good... It was a really good simulation, and the one thing that was probably missing from it that made me not fly it as much as I have flown a lot of other airplanes recently is the fact that it did support shared cockpit. I have a couple of guys that I like to fly shared cockpit with, and we tend to stick to a certain few airplanes because there are only a few airplanes that really support it well. The Airbus actually does support it, and that's one thing that I will say actually right now. The Airbus does support shared cockpit, and it does work really quite well. It's supported in through this third MCDU, connected flight deck. It really works quite well. I've used it quite a few times now. There was one time where we lost our connection, and then it kind of really screwed up after that. I think it was because my sim crashed and we lost our connection. So it didn't work very well after that. We managed to reconnect, and it sort of picked up most of the stuff, but we ended up, one of us had the gear down the whole way. I think it was me, because I had to crash, so I reloaded the airplane, and the gear was down, and it would not go back to up, no matter what I did. So, but in general, this works really quite well. The connected flight deck here on the Airbus, on the Aerosoft Airbus, it works really well. Basically, what happens is you connect to a server, you create like a session, which is just like your flight hosted on that server, and then other people can join it. They just need the session ID and the password. The session ID is just consecutively generated, and the password is a random password. You just have to give it to your friend. They type it in and hit join session, and boom. Or they can hit observe session if they want to be just a jump seat observer that's not participating in the flight at all. Can't control anything, but they can just watch from the jump seat or from any seat. They can sit in whatever seat they want, but they can only watch, and they can't participate. They can't push any buttons. But so you can even have 3 people in the flight deck. I haven't done that. I have done two-person shared cockpit flights before, though, and it works generally quite well. The controls work pretty well. Yeah. I won't say it's worked perfectly every time. Like I said, we had one case where the sim crashed, so after that it did not quite sync up properly after that. But overall, it works quite well. But yeah, Fly the MadDog X was updated today, and the update was transitioned from beta to the mainstream. And that is the update that supports the shared flight deck. I haven't actually gotten around to doing it yet. I've been trying to for about the last week and a half to try and find some time to do it, and I have not been able to find the time to try that shared flight deck, so I can't wait to try that out, because there's another airplane that really needs 2 people. The Airbus doesn't need 2 people. It does, but it doesn't the way the MadDog needs 2 people. The Airbus is relatively simple. You flip about 6 switches, 8 switches, and boom, you're ready for takeoff. The MadDog, you sit there for 20 minutes flipping switches, testing this, turning that on, turning this on, turning that off. You know, worse than the 3.7. Just flipping switches for 20 minutes before you go flying. Having 2 people to do that definitely makes it a lot easier. The MadDog's a little bit of a more slippery plane to handle, just because there's so much going on and so much you have to do. I can't wait to try that one out. So yeah, that is another airplane that, guys, if you haven't picked it up, the MadDog, Fly the MadDog X. It's a very worthwhile add-on. It's not cheap either. It's on the same price range as the Airbus, as the Aerosoft Airbus. It's not a PMDG level price, but kind of a mid-range add-on, but it really is very good for that level. Great systems modeling, lots of systems in there, which to me is always important. I really like to see the systems well modeled. So lots of great systems modeling in there. You know, generally a pretty good performer. Lots of neat things about it. It's an old school airplane. So, but it's a lot of fun to fly. It's it's a big learning curve on it too because there's so much going on in the flight deck. So it takes a while. If you're going to pick it up, be patient. It's going to take you a while to get used to it. There is an FS2 crew available for it, which does a lot of the checks for you, so that's good too. If you don't want to spend a lot of time getting into it, but if you're going to get into it, be patient.
Delta 2110, contact Denver on 135.6 today.
Because it's going to take a lot to get just to get up to speed in it. There's a lot of stuff to do.
On 135.47 today.
It'll take you a while to get used to it, but it's a worthwhile plane. Once you've conquered it and mastered it, you get a real immense feeling of pride because it is not the easiest plane to master. And when you do learn those flows and you know them well and you can perform them without reading anything, you'll feel the master of your domain. So definitely, guys, that's one that I do recommend. If you guys have not flown it, fly the MadDog X. It's an old school airplane. It requires a lot more manual handling, but if you like the 737 with its manual handling, you'll like to fly the MadDog as well. I notice we're kind of heading towards a buildup of clouds here, so I am going to just turn on the engine anti-ice. Shouldn't steal away too much power because we're just in cruise anyways, and we'll leave that on for a little bit. And now we're showing 400, so as we're going along here, we're still slowly getting later and later here. Now, the next question, of course, there is, have you thought about streaming with a Copilot? I have thought about streaming with a Copilot. I haven't had anyone really volunteer to do it. The people I tend to share flight deck with, they're not other streamers. They just enjoy flying. So I haven't really. I've thought about it. I've mildly sort of broached the subject, and nobody seems particularly interested. I'm not going to force it on anybody. You got to be enthusiastic to do it. Streaming is. You just. It's. I don't know what it is about streaming. I like streaming. It frustrates me when things go wrong, but you just got to be able to flow with it. And I do enjoy streaming, but I haven't been able to find anyone else who really wants to do it. So it's something that I'm not against. The other thing, of course, there are some technical issues then when you get into streaming with another streamer, is then you've got to also be able to transmit the... you've got to have both audios coming into the stream. This really, honestly, is taxing my computer quite a bit. Not so much now that we're in cruise, but when we were on the ground, my computer was being taxed, definitely, in Toronto, by the scenery, by the airplane, by the streamer running as well. I'm running this all on one system. I don't have, the streaming is not happening on a separate PC. This is all one system. So streaming does take a little bit of CPU usage as well. It says it's only using about 2% of my CPU for the streaming, but that's 2% more. Start throwing some extra voice communication in there, additional voice processing. That's definitely going to take a few more frames away from the sim. So that's one reason why I'm kind of leaning against streaming with a Copilot, just because it's kind of, I fear it's going to hit my performance too much. Most airports it's okay, but fly Tampa Toronto, which is unfortunately now the hub of Transat, and that's where I'm going to be flying to pretty much every flight, it really does kill the frame rate quite a bit. I'm doing pretty good here. I'm knocking out mid-40s here right now in cruise. On the ground in Toronto, I was in the mid-teens. It was pretty much a slideshow down in Toronto. So that is one thing that I don't think I want to do the connected flight deck stream, is just because I'm afraid of how much more of a performance penalty it's going to cause during the stream. Certain airports, most places it's okay, but Fly Tampa takes a lot of horsepower to run that.
Wing 318, contact Minneapolis approach 135.47.
Anyways, guys, I've now been chatting in this stream for over 2 hours, and I have a few personal things I have to attend to while I am still en route here. So I'm going to step away for a little bit. I'm going to love Toronto in version 5. RickInferno says, really? You gain 5 to 10? Okay, good. I was going to say, if it looks better but then it runs slower, that alone could make it worthwhile. So Rick says I can gain 5 to 10 frames in Toronto running version 5. That alone may make it worth the price of admission. I've got to watch what I'm spending my money on right now as well, unfortunately. As I said, I have taken a substantial pay cut lately, obviously, due to the external factors beyond my control. So I do have to watch my spending a little bit. But if that does help with the performance that much, maybe it's worth considering that purchase will be worth the price. But thank you for that. I did not know. And see, this is why I'm not an early adopter. I like to hear from other people before I spend my money. I like to hear from other people how things are working out for them. You know, the new software is working out for them. So you say, version 5 gives you better performance because, as I understand it, takes advantage of DirectX 12, which makes the better use of your GPU and CPU together, combined. So it combines both of them together, whereas P3D right now is running very CPU intensive. Most of my cores are running at over 90%, and I've got 8 of them, and they're running at over 90% right now. Whereas my GPU, just to check my status here, is only running at about 64-65% here in cruise. So yeah, that's why P3D version 4 is still very CPU intensive. I'm running almost everything at max, and maximum percentage, over 90%. And Rick, Rick says he's going to be doing a stream this weekend from Montreal to Toronto in the Dash. So guys, check it out. You just have to watch my channel. I host Rick streams also on my channel when I'm not hosting. I did watch your Dash flight for a little while today earlier, Rick, and it looked like you were having fun there. You were doing some nice camera work at the end there when panning away from the Dash. I did see the end of it, and you did some really nice camera work at the end, so I really enjoyed seeing that. I kind of cut your stream in half because I put my own stream out there before it crashed. But yeah, if you guys get a chance, follow RickInferno. He does some nice flying as well. He's got some beautiful airplanes. And he does some more regular streaming than I do. I'm basically a once-a-week streamer because that's all I can afford. I have other personal obligations to do, and especially 5-hour legs, I cannot do them very often. I've really got to get away from the stream right now, guys. So I am going to kind of sign off right here. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I am going to do this. There we go. So I'm going to step out of the flight deck for a little bit here. I will be back no later than 0300 Zulu to start setting up for the arrival in Vancouver. I'm going to go do a few things before then because I just can't talk for that long. My mouth is already getting dry if I talk for another 2 hours. My throat will probably just close up if I talk for another 2 hours. So I'm going to take a break for a while, guys. But thank you so much for watching the stream. The stream's going to stay on if you want to stay on it, and or set an alarm and come back at 300 and watch us do an approach over the mountains. It's going to be at night, so you probably won't see all that much. I'm not doing a very good job of selling it here, but we do have the FS Dream Team Vancouver, so it's going to look pretty nice heading in there nevertheless. So guys, thank you so much for watching the first part of this stream, and we will catch you guys when we pick it up ready for Vancouver. And while I'm out of the flight deck, I am going to set it to the beautiful external views here for a while and just let it pan through those so you guys can see what's happening. So thanks guys, and I will be back in a little while. Thanks so much for watching.
snow, these frozen feathers are all I need to let go.
Alright guys, hello, it's Captain Naps back with you once again for some more live stream action here. For anyone that's still watching, we are on our way from Toronto to Vancouver, and we are reaching the end of our flight for the day. That's right, we're going to be in Vancouver in the next little while anyways. We're about, let's have a quick look here and see just how close we are. If we pull up our FMS here, we are about 1 hour from landing in Vancouver here now. Showing an arrival time right now of 4:18 Zulu. So we are in luck today to have some ATC online in Vancouver. We're going to just talk to them in just a couple minutes, and we'll get ourselves set up for our arrival into Vancouver. So stick with me, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it, and we will get this flight finished up here. It's been a long slog here. It's been about 4 hours since we left Toronto. We got 1 more hour left to go. First thing I do before I do anything else, because I have been kind of out of the flight deck for a little while here, is we're just going to do a quick little scan of the flight deck just to make sure everything is hunky-dory, everything is still working out just fine. The ice protection system is still on. I turned it on because we were encountering some clouds when we were in Minneapolis airspace, and so we don't need that anymore for sure. It's a pretty clear night out there. I hope that the stream quality is good enough here at night now. It looks pretty good. I'm just looking at it on my other screen here, and it looks like you guys can see pretty well what's happening on the flight deck here. Contrast is working out pretty well. The colors are pretty nice. Comes across pretty well. So, and it's not totally dark out there. There is a little bit of just chasing the sunset there. So it's not totally dark out here yet. Anyways, it'll probably get a little darker as we get in there, but that's okay. So again, we're going to have a quick look around the flight deck, just make sure everything is working out okay. We got 6,300 kilos of fuel still on board. This is one of the most important things to check, is 6,300. Let's see here. We passed, let's see here if I can. Looks like we passed Bevel. We had 7.4 at Bevel. Again, we can check this against our flight plan here. And at Bevel, the plan was to have, there it is, 8.5 minus about 1,000. We're down a little bit on the fuel, but we're still up above where we need to be. We need to have it about 3 when we get to Vancouver. We're showing 4.3. So right now we're looking okay in the fuel department. So that checks out. As well, we'll just go through our ECAM pages and just make sure that everything is looking okay. Vibration's still fine on the engines. They're still running fine. No oil temperatures and pressures are all good. Pressures are good. Temperature's good. Yeah, everything's good. Bleeds are still running. Pressure's good. Temperatures look good. Cabin pressurization is still stable at 5,800. Electrical, no flags coming up. Everything looks pretty normal on there, and I'm already starting to get a feel for what looks normal on here. Hydraulics, everybody looks good in the hydraulic system as well. And fuel. Yeah, so we got the center tank is empty, but we got still about 3 tons on each side, so we got about 6 in total. We've used about 12, which is good. That all adds up to about 19, which is what we started with. The AP's not doing anything. Cabin air looks good. Doors look good. Everything looks good. Wheels should be showing too much right now, and flight controls not showing too much motion right now, and that's fine. Go back to our cruise page, and I'd say we're doing pretty good there. So we're going to have a quick little look here. There is a center up in Vancouver. I cannot seem to get the ATIS just yet. But the other thing we're going to need to do now is just start to think about looking at our charts for arrival. One thing we don't have is we don't have a SID. And I would like us to fly a SID. So from booth, I think we can fly the Canuck 4 arrival. I don't see anything about jets not allowed on this one. I don't know which way we're landing right now, so maybe when we get on with Vancouver Center they will tell us. But anyways, I don't see any issues with the Canuck 4 arrival, so basically at this point I don't want to set the arrival just because I don't know the landing runway yet. So let's start thinking about calling Vancouver Center here, because we're getting towards their airspace.
Air Transat 3914, proceed direct at 6 on course.
Good direct at 6 on course, Air Transat 3914.
We should have an ATIS, I believe, in Vancouver, but I don't seem to have. It's just not in range yet anyways. We're still pretty far out there. We're still 360 miles, so yeah, we're just not quite in range. Vancouver Center, very good evening. Transat 953 is with you, flight level 300 and squawking 2217.
Transat 953, good evening, welcome on board.
Transat 953, thank you.
WestJet 1727 vectors to intercept localizer, turn left heading 350.
Now, one thing we were supposed to do is step climb earlier. Maybe that's why we
turn left heading 350.
Burned a little bit more fuel than we planned on. Yeah, let's see if we can do it.
033 heavy, wind, Tommy 1 airborne, wind 270 at 4, runway 26 left, clear for takeoff.
26 left, huh? Alright, so sounds like they're landing 26 is perfect. Love it. That answers my question without having to ask. Oh, what am I doing here? Vancouver Center, Transat 953 request.
Transat 953, go ahead.
Request to step climb flight level 340.
Transat 4, correction, Air Transat 953, approved as requested, climb flight level 340.
Climb flight level 340, Transat 953, thank you. Alright, maybe that'll save us a little bit of gas anyways. We'll be starting down before we know it, but there we go.
290, intercept localizer, cleared ILS, runway 26 right approach.
Sounds like we're landing 26 right.
What's 1727, confirm 290.
So there we go, we can add that to the knee board. Actually, no, let's do... What if I could just do 10?
Air Transat 953, expect ILS runway 26 right.
Okay, that's fine. What's it called? Is it called airport or is it called taxi chart? It's probably called airport, right? Yeah, there it is. Okay, so that's the one. Add that to the knee board.
953, expect runway 26 right.
Expect runway 26 right for Transat 953, thank you. Alright, so now we're climbing to 340. Good. That'll save us a little bit of gas anyways. We burn a little bit less gas when we get up to higher levels. Okay, so now I can switch to my knee board, and this has got everything I need. It's got my Canuck 4 arrival. And Vancouver Center from Transat 953. Looks like we didn't file an arrival. After booth, can we fly the Canuck 4 arrival, please?
Air Transat 953, approved as requested. Fly Canuck 4 arrival after booth.
Alright, after booth, fly the Canuck 4 arrival. Thank you very much for Transat 953.
Air Canada 033, heavy, identifying time, flight level 300.
Yep, no, should still be good. I had someone just message me and say that the stream's not working, but it appears to be working.
What's 1727, wind
Sounds like a busy evening.
at 4, clear to land, roll 26 right. Air Canada 033 heavy, procedure to Yankee Alpha Zulu on course.
Okay, so yeah, looks like the stream is working. Somebody just said, oh. Just lost what the URL was of my stream, so there we go. Okay, let's see what was I doing here. Okay, so first things first, we have now gotten our arrival. Okay, so we've got our arrival for Vancouver, so now we can set this up here. I'm just going to do it on my tablet because it's just more comfortable. Frankly, I spend so much time clicking the mouse in these airplanes that I just love an excuse to use my FMS here. A little bit hard to see now because it's night, and I do have a dark room here as well to kind of checked to kind of keep consistent with the flight deck. But here we go. So I'm just going to pause this so it doesn't look around forever. So Vancouver, we're going to do an arrival in Vancouver, and we're going to plan the ILS runway 26 right, and we're going to plan the Canuck 4 arrival, which only starts at booth, so there's no need to specify transition. There's only one transition. So there we go. Insert, and it should put it in there. Booth, fit to have stave, go pad, magnets, that all looks good. I'm going to check it against the charts in a second, but it looks like it's in there. The other thing that we do before we start down here is we have to hit up this performance page. Right now we're still in cruise, but we accelerate ahead 2 phases and we can put in our approach information. Still can't see the Vancouver ADA, so what I will do is I will use my vPilot and ACARS for some Vancouver weather. So we're looking at, okay, there we are, leveling. Okay, so yeah, we are level at 340, that's good. Okay, so 9 degrees and 30.04 on the meter, so 30.04 on the altimeter, and 9 degrees for the arrival. We could put in the winds. If they're light, it's not usually worth doing it. It'll add a little extra factor if we need it with a higher wind situation. With light winds, anything much less than 10 knots, it's usually not worth it unless there's a big gust factor as well. And then we just need to put in the baro minimums, and I'm just going to do this as a config 3 arrival because I just I don't need to full flap. We got plenty of runway in Vancouver. Okay, I think we got most of what we need going on here. The only thing I really need is to check out the charts again, which is so convenient to have them all right up here. I don't even have to look out of the sim window anymore. I can just turn my other screen off at this point, except that I'm monitoring the stream output through it. Otherwise, it's not doing me any good anymore. Alright, ILSDA here is 209 feet, so we're going to go ahead and put that on our baromins. And then now we've got the performance page all set up for arrival. Looks like a landing speed of 145, so our approach speed will be 150 today. Simple, easy, like it. Okay, let's see here. I think I'm just about ready to do an arrival briefing here. Let me just go back over here. I just want to just see where we are relative to everybody here. So we should have terrain on nav display. We do. Don't have any terrain close to our altitude, I guess, so it's not really just showing it. There we go, 320 miles. We are about 160 miles from our top of descent there, which is also that one lat long that I put in there. We're just passing over Cranbrook. Not going to see much tonight, unfortunately, because it's kind of cloudy out there. The weather in Vancouver doesn't look too bad, though. There was some rain showers in the forecast. It's looking pretty good right now. Cap okay, so shouldn't be too much of an issue for the approach here. So, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I'm really missing, but I think we got it all. I think I'm ready to do the approach briefing. Hold on and let me ask my virtual FO what he thinks. I moved this out of the way just so it wasn't kind of distracting during the live stream, or during the intermediate part of the flight there, but now we'll put it back on. Are you ready for the approach briefing?
Ready.
Alright. We're going to have this up here, and we're going to have this down here in this corner. So we can use it, and we can go through everything. So we've already put in the performance data on the performance page. The landing data is all up already on the performance page. So today's arrival is the Canuck 4 arrival into Vancouver for the 26s for the West Flow. 10-2 Alpha, effective on the 30th of January of 2020. So that's a brand new chart. I don't know too much about this chart, so we have to read it all anyways. So what changed probably doesn't affect it too much. Chart renumbered anyways. Renumbered? Re-indexed, sorry. Trying to read it sideways. Safe altitude for 100 miles is 12.8, and there's no other notes on this plan. So we're going to hit up Booth, Vitev, and then Stave. Let's see here. Stave is a max 230 knots between 12,000 and 92, which is where we're estimating there. And then we do GoPad above 9, Mogus above 7. GoPad above 9, Mogus above 7, it's all there. And Obtot above 5, for the right side it's Goreg above 3. Obtot 5,000, Goreg 3,000, and then deceleration will be in there. And it will be joining the ILS to runway 26 right. ILS 26 right here, page 11-5, and effective on the 25th of January 2019. Our localizer today will be 111.95. We can double check that on the nav radio page. It should have it down here. Yep, IRD 111.95 and the inbound course 263, so it's drawn it all out of the flight plan correctly. The glide slope at Totem is 1520. And it's there. Just for the check height, it should nicely navigate down. And ILSDA refer to the bottom to the minimums chart, and as we said, 209. The touchdown zone at 8 feet, we should check that against the field elevation. I'll check that in a second. Just because I got to scroll to the other page to do it. What the hell, let's do it right now. It doesn't take much effort, really. And if we look down at that middle screen there, and our landing altitude is at 0 feet, which is usually rounded to 100 increments, so that's fine. That's good enough for me. Alright, back to the chart. The highest MSA is actually northwest of the field, 7,000 feet. To the south is where we get some nice lower terrain. Missed approach is climb climb to 420 feet straight ahead on the heading of 263, then climbing a right turn to 3000 and intercept the YPK, which I believe is Pitt Meadows, yes. VOR outbound radial 261 to the Dutno intersection, shuttle climb to 5600 there before proceeding on course. Radar RNAV required, 100 miles safe, again is 12.8, and the procedure turns unauthorized, simultaneous approach authorized with 26 left, low reliable only within 10 degrees of the center line. Pretty much standard notes for most ILS approaches these days. Goreg, Agnat, and Totem, and Agnat is basically where we're going to join at 3,000 feet. So as long as we're level 3,000 feet by Goreg, we will be fine to intercept this glide slope. It's a 3-degree glide slope. Pappy's on the right, ALSF2 lighting system, and RVR 2600 a half miles requirement. It's a VFR day, shouldn't be an issue. Okay. Landing in Vancouver, we're landing on 26 right. It's any convenient left turn we can make on a high speed, and one thing I don't have primed up yet, but I'm going to go look for it right now, is a gate. So let's see if I can find an appropriate gate for this flight. The trouble is it's getting harder and harder to find information because I typically use FlightAware. I just simply search for the flight on FlightAware, and now the last time this flight landed was over 3 weeks ago. So hence there is no arrival information, unfortunately, for Transat 953 in Vancouver, so I'm just going to have to pick something at random unless I can try and find another source. So let's see if I can... let's see if I can maybe find arrivals departures for Air Transat. Sometimes airlines have typical gates assigned. And I do not really. Because there are no Transat flights flying anymore, unfortunately this is really failing me now as a source of gates. So I'm going to have to...
29 and 14, roger. We'll come back.
I think the best thing I can do is probably look at a terminal map of the Vancouver airport. This is a domestic flight, so hence we have to be on the domestic piers, and that is the key. So it looks like probably 29 to 52. Is probably how we're going to have to do it. I'm just looking at the Vancouver terminal map on my other screen just to kind of see where domestic and international departures normally would be. And yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll keep it halfway on the domestic pier, so we'll go with some gate in the 40s. Will get me there. So once we get to below 10,000 feet, we can activate GSX. We'll pick a gate in the 40s, and that'll put us somewhere on this middle pier here. 45, 46, 47, 48, 49 is probably good. So we'll taxi most likely down Juliet. Yeah, so we'll probably taxi wherever we vacate. We'll have to make our way down Mike to get to Juliet to get to our gate. Okay, terrain is high terrain around the airport. 12,800 is 100 miles safe, so we have to make sure we stick to the star altitudes and fly the approach accurately. Definitely a concern. Most of the higher terrain is north of the field. There is some flatter area to the south, and to the west is ocean, which is nice and flat. Weather is VMC here at our destination, our alternate of Comox. Let's just check it, shall we? Comox is also looking pretty good right now. Broken at 4,200, 20 miles. Also cav okay. So both the destination and the alternate weather look good. Operational. Let's see. No failures on this aircraft. We should check the NOTAMs for Vancouver and see if there's anything of interest here. So NOTAM. Skip past the departure airport and go straight to the arrival airport, destination airport. See if there's anything affecting us. Mike 2 and Mike 4 are closed. Reading through these. I haven't read through them before, really. I'm not familiar with Vancouver Airport very much. Looks like there's some closures on Mike. Mike 9, Mike 2, Mike 4. 2, Mike 4, and Mike 9 appear to all be closed. Okay, so if we miss Mike 2 and Mike 4, we got to go to Mike 6 by the looks of it. Let's go back to this page and check again, and just resets the top, so we'll have to do this the easy way. Hoi! This is the tedium of airline pilot life, is trying to read NOTAMs and try and make sense of them all, especially airports you're unfamiliar with. The NOTAM system is really broken, unfortunately, and somebody really needs to do something about it and fix it properly. Because there's just so many NOTAMs to read through at some airports, and this is not even that bad. Go to Dallas-Fort Worth during the majority of their construction, and it was ridiculous. Now, it says 26 right's going to close at 5 Zulu, which actually that's over an hour from now, so that's fine. We'll be on the ground by then. Arrivals 26 right, not authorized below RVR 2600. Okay. Anything with the approaches? Glide path 26 right, unserviceable. Oh, good. Well, if he clears us for an ILS approach, then we'll assume it's working again. Mike 9, Mike 2, and it's hard to tell if that's a Mike, 'cause it's... No, Hotel 2 and Hotel 4. Oh, glad. Okay, that changes things. Hotel 2 and Hotel 4. Closed. Where is Hotel 2 and Hotel 4? Hotel 2, Hotel 4. Oh, okay. Not going to impact us at all. But that's why we read the NOTAMs, to be aware ahead of time of what's going on. So when you get a taxi route that you're not expecting, it's not a surprise because you're actually expecting it because you know what's closed. It's important. So I see so often people play down the NOTAMs. Anyways, that's good for operational. And last but not least, fuel at the destination again. We're showing 4.2 now, and we need a minimum of 3 when we get there. So we're looking at 1,200 extra. We got about 15 minutes, a little more than 15 minutes of extra playing around fuel. We can take vectors for about 15 minutes, a whole 15 minutes before we have to really start getting worried about our fuel situation. And that is basically it. Do you have any questions?
Okay, that's checked, and no questions.
Perfect. I must have been pretty thorough because he has no questions. But especially after a long flight, you do need kind of a long briefing just to sort of get through and make sure you're still alert, awake, aware of everything that's happening. And the funny thing is, like, this flight plan was generated like 5 or 6 hours ago. There could be a lot of new NOTAMs out there by now. Of course, if we had a dispatcher, they would also be monitoring the NOTAMs. Anything that was really terribly relevant that they felt that we should know about, they would probably tell us about. You would hope. But it wouldn't be the first time that the dispatchers, unfortunately, are monitoring many flights at a time, dealing with all sorts of different situations. So it is always possible for things to get by even our dispatchers as well. So, you know, they are human beings as well. They are monitoring lots of different things. They could also have a certain flight that maybe is having a major issue, a malfunction, some kind of emergency, and they are wasting a lot of, I shouldn't say wasting, but they are diverting a lot of their attention to one particular flight at the expense of all the rest of their flights. So they may not be monitoring the rest of their situations as closely as they should be. Anyways, felt like I talked a lot there, but getting ready. I'm kind of excited. This is we're almost there. Almost there. That was a long flight today, guys. But it'll be worth it. It'll be so satisfying when we get to the gate in Vancouver now. And we're almost there. We've got 221 miles left to go. So we're getting there, 30 minutes, give or take, until our arrival in Vancouver. A nice straight-in arrival. Off to the gate, and then off to bed, I think. And then we'll have to probably wait for another week. Most likely I've got a few errands to run around the house these days, even though I'm not working so much. I am doing lots of work. Trying to get the house ready for spring, so I'm probably not going to have time to stream again this week. Our next leg, which is down to Punta Cana, or not Punta Cana, down to Puerto Vallarta, will probably not take place until next week sometime. But stick with the channel, and it probably will end up being Wednesday. Wednesday seems to be a day that works really well for me to do streaming, so I think we're going to try and sort of make it a consistent thing where we stream a flight every Wednesday, and hopefully we'll have the ATC we need. I'm pretty impressed with the ATC we've had so far today. We had departure, we had pretty much the first half of our flight, we had pretty good ATC. We had Minneapolis Center online for a while. They shut down But then again, we've got arrival ATC, and that's really, while en route ATC is nice, it's really the arrival and departure where having ATC really makes a big difference. It was nice to have full ATC coverage leaving Toronto. We had departure, and we also had center on. Nice to have it in Vancouver. So thank you guys in Vancouver for being on tonight. It's much appreciated. And I know they're probably watching the stream, so Brad, thank you. Thank you, Charlie. But it is so nice to have ATC too, and it's so much easier to get by these days with ATC, and it's almost going to be sad when these shutdowns do eventually end. I mean, we do all need to get back to work and back to our real lives, but from the perspective of members of the VATSIM network, it's going to be a little bit sad when we lose a little bit of that. A little bit of that bonus ATC that we've had, because frankly we've just had so many people on all the time. Controllers, a lot of sectors are being staffed for a much larger percentage of the day. I actually have not checked. What I haven't checked in a long time is the stats on the Iron Mike, and I wonder if they must be pulling in some absolutely magnificent hours right now on the Iron Mike. I have not even looked at it for quite a few weeks now, at least. And it's funny because I always do enjoy it. I think it's a good. I think it's a fantastic idea. Is there no Iron Mike thing here on the forum anymore? What happened to the Iron Mike? Oh yeah, there you are. Under awards. Okay, there we go. I found it. Never mind, I found it. Because there must be pulling in, like, the top people must be online for huge amounts of time. Oh my god. And I just pulled it up. The latest Iron Mike stats. West Palm Beach, 99.7% uptime. Was up for almost the entire week. Wow. Blowing people out of the water. Darwin, the second place at 98.4. Those two guys blew everyone out of the water. I thought Darwin probably thought they had it in the bag until West Palm came along and took it with an extra 2 hours on top of that. The next ones are down there in the 50s, but still, that's a lot of time. Used to be if you could get into the 30s, it was pretty miraculous, but now we see there is at least 12 that made it well into the 30s, with 5 north of 40, 4 north of 50, and that's just on tower. Center as well, we got Jakarta online for 96%, like the coverage in some of these sectors. I look for some of my favorites, the Canadian ones, of course. Not doing too badly, they're sliding a little bit. There's not as much coverage during the day, I don't think, as there is at night. I think there's more coverage generally at night. These guys still are, a lot of them are still kind of working through it the day on from home. So, but some of these places obviously have people who just do not have anything to do anymore, and they're spending all their time online. So Jakarta, number 2 for center, with 99.6% uptime. Copenhagen with 99.7, beat them by about 10 minutes. And I look for all the popular ones here. Boston online for 36.9%, Denver 46.9%. Like, to think of the number of people that are sharing their time online like that. And it doesn't have to be one person; it could be a whole bunch of people. In fact, there's so many people. And then, of course, there's people complaining that some of these places were actually staffed 100% of the time and somehow minutes got lost. You still won, guys. The system is not perfect. The previous weeks, there was a couple of centers that were online for 100%. Kansas City Center, online for a full 167 hours, 49 minutes. 11 minutes getting lost somehow. Same with Moscow being up for almost the same amount of time, short by just over a minute. The numbers being pulled in are so impressive now, guys. You've got a good chance flying around to have ATC any given time of the day now, not just in the evenings like it used to be popular, but any time of day, which is great. All right, we're coming up pretty quick to our top of descent here. It'll be good to get this flight under our belt. Start off on this start off on this season 3 of a pilot's life here. These, I think, are just some of the default views that came with my 320. Or did I have some set up before ChasePlane switched? I must have had some views set up before ChasePlane switched. It's not too bad, though. It's a little bit dark. I think you guys are seeing it darker than I am. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove that FMS again, because you guys don't need to see that, because it'll shut itself off anyways. It's a little bit dark. The trouble with flying at night, that's why I don't like to stream so much night flights, because it's a little bit hard to see what's going on. I do like it better streaming during the day when you can enjoy these exterior models much better, but night flying is a good portion of the flying in the real world, so that's just the way it happens. Unfortunately, we got delayed leaving Toronto. We did not leave Toronto on time today. We left about 3 or 4 hours behind schedule due to some unforeseen technical difficulties. So that's the way life is, and we will just have to make do. I think we're just about to pass Kelowna now. Enter destination data. We already entered the destination data. It's there. It's all there. Config 3, temperature, altimeter, minimums. It's all there. You don't need to complain. It's there. Back to the flight plan page, 421. Even as we go here, I think the winds are picking up more and more because we still are losing more and more time. Now we're showing about 421 Zulu here. We're losing more and more minutes as we go, but we're getting there. We're getting close now. Top of drop is coming up in just a couple of minutes here now. Where's my top of drop time? 3:53. So about 3 or 4 minutes we should be starting down on our arrival into Vancouver. But just think of all the experience points I'll amass now on this leg, doing 5 hours in a single leg. I will probably amass enough experience points for promotion pretty quickly at this rate. As well, it's also almost the end of April, so I will also start getting paid again in another week, I guess. We'll get paid again, and maybe we'll be able to afford some more stuff at the shop. Oh, I can't even check it out, but see if we can get something else to earn ourselves more experience points. I don't know what's next on the list. The cheapest thing, I bought the cheapest thing, which was the flight bag for about $208. I think the next cheapest thing is like a cell phone, which is like $1,000, so it might take me a couple of months to save up enough money for that. Can't put it on the installment plan, unfortunately, here. Pilot's life, cash only. If you don't have the cash, you don't get the reward. But it is an interesting way to also use those rewards.
953, ready, descend 17,000.
When ready to send 17,000, Transat 9053.
Air Transat 9053, altimeter 3004.
Copy 3004 on the meter for Transat 9053. Okay. Oh, and that's my top and drop pause because I don't think I turned that off. No, I did not. Okay, there's 17,000 feet set. We are in managed mode. And you know what? We can just shove it in and it will start down right now. Let me think. It's this one. Nope, not that one. That one. Yeah, because I forgot to turn off the option.
Vancouver Center, Delta 4033, climbing to flow 300 for flow 360.
Pause at top of descent is now going to be off for our next flight.
4033, Stock Island.
There we go, that's better. Alright, starting down 1,000 feet per minute until we intercept our vertical profile, which will be very soon anyways. And away we go.
Climb flight level 360.
Up to flow 360, Delta 4033 S.
And at this point, we're basically almost going to be idling now. We got 4.6 right now. We're estimating 4.3 when we get to Vancouver, so we're going to be pretty much almost flying idle all the way down, which is the most efficient way to fly an airplane. Fly it at maximum power at cruise for as long as possible, and then idle descent as long as possible. Not to the point where you miss the runway, but you want to time it so that you have minimal power in the descent. Because as you go down, that fuel burn starts increasing. So you want to run it at the lowest power setting possible throughout the descent. This is why we spend all this time calculating these VNAV profiles. Now, I did find that the last time I descended this airplane on arrival, it did not descend very well on the arrival. It really missed some of the altitude. So I'm going to monitor this one fairly closely this time and make sure that it does it does meet the altitudes that it needs to meet to do this arrival. I'm doing the charts up here. Oh, we don't have the star chart, so we'll put the star chart back up here. There we go. A little shot of caffeine just to help get us through the arrival. And we will be there before we know it. Okay. Messages can all be cleared on that one. And follow on the flight plan page there. Alright, it's coming into view. We got a little over 100 miles to go. Should be able to get the ATIS now. Yeah, there it is. Alright, let's just check and see what it says. Yeah, there's a few clouds out there. A bunch of layers of few, but not too much. Temperature is 9, dew point is 8, 3 is 4. Okay, and, yep. And that's information Bravo. Transat 9053 has information Bravo in Vancouver.
Transat 9053, Roger, ILS, runway 26 right, altimeter 3004, information Bravo current.
Okay, we have Bravo and 3004. We are planning the ILS 26 right. Thank you, Transat 9053. Alright, and that's pretty much it. The airplane pretty much flies itself. You don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. Now, are we ever going to catch this vertical path here? Because it seems to have a nice... See, that little green tick indicates we are below the path. I didn't think we started down that early. I would have thought we caught the path by now.
Vancouver, Canada 1188. We're looking to pick up our IFR clearance to Kelowna.
Okay.
Air Canada 1188.
We'll just keep on going down. I'm going to keep monitoring it. Another... Let's see here. Booth we're supposed to cross at 12,000, so 30... We gotta lose about 18 to get there. 18 times 3 is 54. So yeah, okay, we're not quite 54 miles from Booth. Okay, yeah, no, we can, we're fine. I may have started down a little bit too early there, but it's okay.
Okay, we're clear to Vancouver, Kelowna via the Vancouver 1 departure flight plan route of 26 left, squawk 07640, Air Canada 1188.
While we're here, let's just play with some things here. Pop out the standby compass. Which has its own light switch. Back you go. As the dome light's on, it does create a much brighter glow on the flight deck. It's all making my eyes sore just to look at it. I'm getting used to look at the dark flight deck now. But it does, it's not super bright. I think it could be probably a little bit brighter with the dome light on. I don't know if this is realistic. Maybe a real 320 captain will tell me one day, 320 driver will tell me one day, but it adds light, but I don't think it, I feel like it doesn't quite add enough light. Maybe that's just me. Yeah, I started down pretty early. I probably shouldn't have started down quite as early as I did. Oh well. Oh well. We're on our way in anyways. We will have enough fuel to get there. It's going to be straight in approach, so it should happen pretty nicely for us. And then we can call it a night, and another day we'll continue this. we have a white light for the landing flap 3. Which is fine, we're doing the flap 3 landing. A little bit more efficient anyways. You tend not to try and do the full flap landings as much as possible. If the runways allow it, you use a lesser flap setting usually because the higher flap settings add a lot more drag on approach and you end up burning quite a bit more fuel. Not like noticeable to the point where you're going to run out of fuel or anything like that, but more from a company cost perspective. You're going to end up burning a lot of fuel over the course of many approaches. So as much as possible we try to do the lower flap settings that are still compatible with the runway we're using. Most of the runways we're going to go to are going to be pretty long, so we are going to be doing mostly flap 3 arrivals. If we do any short ones, we'll gladly do the flap 4. We'll do the flap full, but as much as possible we'll try to plan on the flap 3 arrivals. It's a pity it's so cloudy. You guys really can't see that much. I might see here. Now, I did have this turned on a previous flight for a night flight. This makes it really quite washed out, but it makes it a bit easier for you guys to see kind of, I think, what's going on. So maybe somewhere in the middle, maybe not quite so high. Somewhere right about there, maybe. You can see a little bit more of what's happening. Like the inside of the aircraft is actually not too bad. I mean, it's a dark flight deck, but it's nice to be able to see a little bit of the texture out there. So you can see it's kind of cloudy out there. Oh, now we're at the idle descent. You heard those engines wind right down. There's that green dot that we're going to chase down now all the way. That is our vertical profile. Start to see a few mountains out there through that one break in the clouds there. Now we're starting to descent in earnest here. And we're not expected to burn more than another 100 or so kilos from here to the ground. Our fuel flow is down to what here? Down to less than 500 kilos per hour in total. So yeah, in the next 20 minutes we would expect to burn maybe another 100 to 200 kilos at the most. Assuming it can remain at idle. Trouble is there's a headwind in there that I did not put in for, so we're actually going down a little bit slower than we anticipated just because we've got a headwind that's holding us back. Not really a big fan of this filter, but it sort of helps you guys see a little bit better what's going on outside, so it's not just a black hole outside. As you can see with this FS2 crew though, once you get the airplane going, it really does not have much to do until you get right into the approach phase. There's not even a descent checklist on this airplane. The airplane is so well automated, they don't even need the descent checklist. It's just an approach checklist when you get close to the airport. That's, you go right from the after takeoff checklist, the next checklist you do is the approach checklist. So a long flight, you don't even talk to the FO for 4 hours. Even right now we're doing 1,300 feet per minute down. That's not a very steep descent by any means. We have to keep some power on to keep overcoming that. Which means we're going to probably burn through more fuel than we estimate before we get to Vancouver. Now we're down to 4.2. Still above minimums anyways. Not a lot of extra though. We filled the tanks and we're only dealing with, you know, about 1,000 kilos extra of fuel, which is not that much in this airplane. That'll only buy you probably at a cruising power setting, that'll only buy you about 15 minutes worth of flight time. Not a whole lot of extra to show up on a whole cross-country flight, so I think it'd be very hard pressed to even do Montreal direct to Vancouver in this airplane. It seems like that would be a bit of a strain. You would be coming in with pretty much the minimum amount of fuel when you get to Vancouver. I was under the impression that the 320 had a little bit better range than that you could do a cross-country flight easily, but I guess not. Canada is too big a country to cross in one hop, most of these airplanes. But we're getting there now. Coming across range after range of mountains, and before you know it, we're going to be down there. Starting that arrival in 35 miles now. And I'm just counting it down, because I am a little bit tired now. I had planned for this stream to end about 4 hours ago, but aviation, you make do with what you got. One thing I do want to say too, while I have a chance, is I just want to commend SimMarket and all the other developers out there for this free software a day giveaway on SimMarket. It's just absolutely phenomenal that SimMarket was able to reach out to the developers, and the developers responded and said, yeah, you know what, we can support this. And they've got enough support, they've got enough developers out there to support this, that every day in April they've given away a different free piece of software for 24 hours. You have to download it to your account within that 24 hours, but then it's yours to keep for free. And it just blows my mind that they had enough developers who said, yeah, we can do something about that, and are willing to give away something for free. Most of them are not the newest airports, although there are a few that have been released within the last 1 to 2 years as we went through it. Most of them were older than that. They were smaller airports, older airports. We're not talking about giving away Chicago O'Hare here. But some of them were published in the last couple of years, so most of them were kind of older airports. But you know what? It gives you new places to explore. These developers probably made about as much money as they're going to make off these airports. But if they give them away for free, it might get a few more people to come down and try their hand at a new airport. And that's definitely what I've done. I've taken a couple of them. I did when I was actually before I did these series of flights. I ferried this plane over from the factory in Toulouse, and I stopped at Rennes in.
Transat 9053, descend 90,000.
Descend 90,000, Transat 9053. 900,000 feet set. So let's do this here first.
Air Canada 2914, you are leaving my airspace to the east.
3004 set.
Have one for flight.
3004, cross-checked, passing 17,000.
And then he'll say now when we actually get to 17,000, which you try and time it so it happens just before you hit altitude, but obviously I missed that one big time, so my bad. But yeah, so I stopped at an airport that I had downloaded for free, Rennes in France, and it was not like an FS Dream Team, scenery, but it was still, nevertheless, it was a good scenery, and it was just nice to have somewhere to visit, so somewhere new, and I'm going to spend probably months trying to visit the various airports that I have now added to my collection thanks to these sales. So kudos to SimMarket and all the rest of the developers who have decided that it's going to say now there's the 17,000 checked, who have supported this initiative as well. So, SimMarket came to their developers and said, hey, we'd like to do this, are you willing to nominate one piece of software? It's not just airports, it's been a couple of airplanes here and there, and it was even the other day they gave away the Tower 2011, which is an old, it's a fairly old now ATC simulator, but the one thing that's really neat about it is voice activated, so you can actually clear airplanes for takeoff and landing using the software, using your voice in the software, and it translates the commands, and it's quite well done. It is a little dated, but it's free. It was free, I'm going to probably get a little bit of enjoyment out of it from time to time. So kudos on them for that. Lots of us have spent plenty of money on our sim products over the years. It's nice to see the developers kind of get together and give something back to the community, and not just something, like they've given back a lot now. I'm just going to put the anti-ice on as we come up to this cloud here. They've given back a lot now to everybody. And I'm just very impressed at that overall, you know. People are spending a lot of time at home. They're stuck not doing much, and in a lot of cases, a lot of them no longer have a lot of income to live off of either. So to be able to get these free airports, free airplanes, and just add a little bit of variety to your sim when you're flying through it, something new and different that you haven't tried before, that's really generous, and you know, really helps when we are stuck inside. And like I said, like many people now have had experienced involuntary decreases in salary, whether it's total or whether it's just partial. Regardless, it's not easy, and it's nice that we can still get away into the flight simulation world and have a nice little easy getaway. Did I not switch that off to standard? I thought I did. There we go. Sorry. Alright. Just about ready to do those approach checks. Just give us about 1 to 2 more minutes and we will be there. Wow. These are some long flights. Nice to have some ATC in it too, although even the ATC is sounding pretty quiet this evening now. Again, a bit of a pity, but what can you do? These guys are out there manning the stations every night, and I hope that you guys will support them. You know, get out there, fly the networks, support the controllers that are supporting you. Give them a good reason to be here. Alright, looks like we made the restrictions on the arrival pretty nicely here. Stave is going to be between 12 and 92, and that looks like we're going to make that no problem at all, which is good. It's really looking quite good here. Now we're into the clouds here. TAT of, it's just +0 right now. We'll be able to turn that anti-ice off shortly. Don't see any ice accumulating on the windscreen. Yeah, it's just a pity. I tried to time this. The original plan was for this to be a daylight arrival. Well, you'll see the mountains when we depart Vancouver on our next stream, probably next week. But I'm really kind of intrigued by this, the idea of doing some longer haul flying, visiting some airports I haven't seen before. Transat has got a really neat assortment of destinations. It took me a long time, actually, to pick my way through. I must have generated 25 or 30 schedules if I generated one. Trying to find one that had an interesting combination of airports. Was trying to find mostly ones that I already had in my library, trying to avoid spending a lot of money on any kind of new scenery. You know, I looked for ones that had good freeware.
953, descend 3,000.
Descend 3,000, Transat 953. 3,000 feet is set. So it took me a long time to pick my way through there and find a collection of airports that I liked, that I thought would feature a few airports that I have that I've enjoyed in my scenery. But I think I found a pretty nice combination now. And the nice thing is, like, there is quite a lot of destinations still to choose from. So when this schedule finishes, this month's schedule, I will probably keep going with Transat for at least one more month, one more monthly schedule, if not more. There we go. Now the level out to lose some speed. Because Stave is also at 230 knots, which is where it should have gone to. It did. It's at 230 knots. And let's go ahead. Approach checklist.
Okay, approach checklist. Briefing.
Confirmed.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Seat belts.
On.
Sparrow Ref.
3004 set.
3004 set. MDADH.
209 feet set.
209 feet set. Engine mode selector.
Norm.
Alright, approach checklist is complete.
Alright, approach checklist is complete. Alright, just the landing checklist to go when we get down there. She added a bit of power, but we're about to pitch down, I think, a little bit more to follow this descent path again. We're going to hit 3,000 when we get to Goreg and join the ILS. Almost there. For those of you that are just joining the channel, if anybody has not been watching for a little while, we are just about to land in Vancouver here. It's been a long slog over from Toronto. We've crossed most of Canada this evening, trying to get from Toronto to Vancouver for the first leg of Season 3 of A Pilot's Life. We're just about, not even 10 minutes away from landing here. Just coming through 10,000 feet now.
10,000.
Checked. I don't believe there's any other speed restrictions on the arrival. Nope. Stave 90 above 9,200. We already passed that. It's go pad at or above 9,000. And the restrictions are all on there. The one thing actually I did not do when we went to 10,000 is I should turn on the localizer so that we can see it when it comes in. And that's about it. Otherwise, she's really quite a simple airplane to fly in most ways, much more so than the Dash. The Dash is a very complicated airplane to fly. And it's not that it is complicated, but there's just so many buttons and switches to throw.
953, information Charlie, current altimeter 3006.
Okay, we'll pick up information Charlie, Transat 953. Alright. Setting 3006. Got to level off at 9,000 and go pad for a second, then it continues to descend here. Doesn't seem like it's the most efficient way to fly. A lot of accelerating and decelerating the engines here. Does not feel like that's a very efficient way to fly, but nevertheless, here we are. Alright. Information Charlie. Pull this up on my ACARS, otherwise known as V-Pilot. It's just about speed. Wind's just about on the runway at 7 knots. 4,100 view, broken 6,000. Wow, it's getting better and better here. Temperature's 8, close enough. So 3006 and 8 degrees now, so we could update this to just make it that much more. I don't think it's probably going to make a difference, but we can check it. Nope, did not make a difference to my speeds. That's okay. Cross Mogos above 7,000. The next is Optot above 5,000, which it looks like it's doing a pretty good job of maintaining all these restrictions here, which is good because we're stuck in the clouds now. Oop, I don't know why that's down. Hey, you, go back in. There we go. Should break out shortly here. What I might do is take the opportunity here to just turn off that filter. I really don't like it that much, but it's so dark at night otherwise. So we'll turn that off now, and you'll get the beauty of busting out on the Vancouver city lights very soon here. One other thing we can do before we bust out is let's go ahead and choose Vancouver Airport, and I believe it's going to be main terminal C. We're going to have the Charlie gates into the 40s here, so I said like 40. We'll do 46. Alright, so now we got gate 46 set up for arrivals. And now we just gotta spot that airport.
Transat 953 cleared ILS, runway 26 right approach via Goreg.
Via Goreg cleared the ILS 26 right, Transat 953.
Okay, thanks for letting me know. Captain, the cabin is secure.
Checked. Alright, so the approach is armed. We got loc and glide slope armed. And altitude constraint star. see we're a little bit below the glide path now. And we're going to continue to descend below the glide path here. We'll have some time to level off and start deploying the flaps once we intercept final here at Goreg. Oh, there we go. Busting out over Vancouver. Hello, Vancouver. Aren't you a sight for sore eyes? I am getting tired. That is for sure. It'll be nice to put this plane to bed and then put myself to bed. But I certainly hope you guys have enjoyed this trip today.
1,000 to go.
Checked. You can look for the YouTube version to be out in just a couple of days. If you missed any of the fun, you can go back and check it all out. It'll have the central portion with the quiet cruise all sped up, so you'll just have the interest of the departure, the arrival, and anytime I had anything interesting to say. There's Lokestar. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the speed out. We're going to start bringing the speed back. Speed's 210. You know, 14 miles final. Let's bring the speed back to 190. There we go. Alright, start focusing on what we're doing here. I gotta rejig my chair. Come on, load it. Yeah, it's FS Dream Team. It's pretty intense scenery, but you can do it. I believe in you, plane.
Air Transat 953, wind 270 at 7, clear to land at runway 26 right.
Clear to land, runway 26 right, Transat 953. Flaps 1. Oh, helps if I unmute it. Flaps 1.
Speed checked. Flaps 1.
Alright, let's do speed 170.
Checked.
$2,500.
Flaps 2.
Speed checked. Flaps 2.
Here comes the airport in sight. Gear down.
Gear down.
Just remember, approach speed is...
Okay, approach is armed.
Flaps 3.
Speed checked. Flaps 3.
Landing checklist.
Okay, landing checklist. Cabin crew. Cabin crew seats for landing.
Advised.
Auto thrust.
Speed.
ECAM memo.
Landing no blue.
Landing checklist complete.
Alright, we got the approach speed set to 150. We're cleared to land. Just gotta actually do the landing here.
1,000.
Stable. Disengaging the autopilot.
400. 300. 100 above.
Checked.
200. Minimum.
Landing.
Check.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. Retard.
Spoilers. Reverse green. Decel.
Did we not set auto brakes? We didn't. Ugh. I'm getting very used to them now too. That was the one thing I forgot.
70 knots.
Shouldn't have taken that much of the runway to land, but I forgot we didn't have auto brakes on. I'm not used to auto brakes after flying the dash. Auto brakes are a nice thing to have. But you have to set them or they don't do anything.
Air Transat 953, welcome to Vancouver. Taxi via Mike, apron at your discretion.
Okay, taxi Mike, apron our discretion for Transat 953. Thank you very much. Good night.
You too.
Checked.
Okay to clean up. Alright. Well, we are here in Vancouver. We made it. We landed safely. A little snafu with the brakes there. And we tried not to use them. What are you going to do, right? I'm not perfect at this airplane, but I will learn. By the time we get through 3 legs together, hopefully by the time we get back to Toronto in this airplane, I should be pretty familiar with it. So we're looking to make a right turn on Juliet. Doesn't help too that I am tired. I feel tired. I am close to the end of my my rope here. It's only 9 p.m. here in Vancouver, 9:30, but for me, I am Toronto based. It's midnight 30. It is late, and it's time for me to head to bed. So, trying to get to the gate, make a right turn here on Juliet, and start looking for my FS2 crew there. I think I'm alone here in Vancouver. I don't think there's any other airplanes on the ground here, unfortunately. Alright, so it should be in this alley. These guys should be waiting for us somewhere, I believe. be them there. Or it could be them over there. Oh, that's probably them over there, isn't it? Okay, that's okay. We'll start the... We don't need the anti-ice anymore, guys, but we do need the APU started. I believe there's 2 lanes. We'll take the left lane into this, or the second lane into this alley here, which is actually the right lane. Ridiculous landing lights, right? Yeah, landing lights are off. It's just the taxi light. It's a bright taxi light. Whew, welcome to Vancouver, guys. Alright, 43, 44, 45, 46. Alright, that's starting. She's about halfway there. Good. And we have made it. We have completed a first leg of Season 3, or almost. We are a minute away from completing the first leg. We gotta get to the gate, get the engines off, and then she'll all shut down and cycle through for us. This is gate 45, which means the next gate should logically be gate 46, which appears to have all sorts of people waiting for us. Matter of finding that center line. We're going to set the taxi light to off and the dome light to on, and I think I may have accidentally stopped. I just sort of meant to slow down. It'd be nice to have an FO to do these things. In the dash, you could get him to turn off the taxi light, but for some reason in the Airbus, I guess it's not in their SDK, but you can't seem to get the FO to control a whole lot of stuff, which is unfortunate. There is our marshaller. Our taxi light is off. Doesn't seem to want to put me quite on the line. Now he wants to put me on the line. And we're here. Brakes on, APU. Let's check. APU is up and running. The engines are coming off. Parking checklist.
Okay, here's the parking checklist. APU bleed.
On.
Engines.
Off.
Seat belts.
Off.
Exterior lights.
Set.
Cockpit from ground.
Fuel pumps.
Off.
Parking brake and chocks.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Chocks are in now, and you can release the parking brake.
Thank you. Released.
Parking checklist is complete.
Although I think I will leave it on because I don't think GSX functions well without it. Why? I had to go forward another 10 feet for it to work sometimes. Alright, operate jetway. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Really? Jetway doesn't move here? Anyways, we're going to go ahead and request boarding.
Cabin crew, disarm slides.
I don't know why that bridge won't move over here. Normally they work here in Vancouver, but for some reason it doesn't want to work today, so too bad. Anyways, the important thing is the airplane is docked, and while they figure out that jet bridge, we can get ready to start disembarking. But there we go. our first leg of season 3 of A Pilot's Life is done. Next is going to be Vancouver to Puerto Vallarta. That's going to be a fun one. Basically down the west coast of North America, right across America and straight into Mexico. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to do that one too and explore a new city I've never been to before. But for now, that is it for today. So yeah, I just think I'll just take a second here and just show you Transat's airline profile, because it is like I said, it's a pretty good airline in terms of destinations. It's got a couple of different types of equipment that I can fly: the 37, the 330, the 320, the 321. But it's got a nice assortment of destinations here. A whole bunch of stuff in Europe, a whole bunch of stuff here in the Caribbean, Mexico, and a few places in Florida. And it does a little bit of flights through Canada. A little bit of East Coast to West Coast kind of stuff through Canada. So there's a little bit of stuff there, but a lot of European destinations. I'm surprised I only got one in this month's schedule, but we just got Amsterdam. But anyways, that is basically it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have had fun here while they're trying to figure out how to operate this jetway, because it just seems to be stuck. Anyways. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. This was something very new for me to do a stream this long, but I had fun and I can't wait to do the rest of them. So you guys stay safe out there, stay healthy, and we will see you all for the next stream really soon. Take care.